Hello and welcome to the weekly Inside the Lab live experience, our weekly live show that was put on a temporary hiatus last week, but nonetheless, here we are. We are back inside the lab, and I'm back and fired up, and so happy to be here with you. Everybody that's here with us right now, that's here on the live stream, and of course, our replay viewers, right? Because I do see you, you Lab fam coming in at the back end of the show or after the show concludes and wraps up. And really fast here, I just want to say hello to TMZ, the Mrs. Zombified, and Your Highness was kicking it out or was hanging out during the at the beginning of the show, if you will. But yeah, we had to schedule a live show, and I do apologize about that. But we're not going to dwell too much on that for too long. We're going to jump right into the meat and bones of the conversation, of course, and that is avoiding bad PC advice here in 2021, right? And that's if you want to build, maintain, or upgrade your gaming PC. And just how to sift through the noise and all of the misinformation that's readily available all across the web. So that's what we're going to talk about during today's live show, while of course answering any and all of your questions and getting caught up, with the community, because we didn't have the opportunity. A little bit of rhyming words there, but to get caught up with the community because I missed you guys and gals, right? I missed you guys and gals from last week, but here we are. We do have I do want to add that we do have a highlight that's going to drop Monday. It's flipped a little bit differently, edited a little bit differently, but again, it's out there just in case you're unable to make those live streams. And really fast here, I want to just do some quick housekeeping because I just finished up our channel memberships. Everything's all set up and it's already been submitted to our good friends over on YouTube. So when they are live, when YouTube channel memberships are live and available, they're going to go out to our email subscribers over here on our email list. So if you haven't yet signed up yet, do be sure to sign up for our email list. All we need is your email address and your first name so we know where to send that information, and of course how to address you. So you can find this link down in the description box below with additional helpful information, and any other useful links that could help support the channel, like merch and any affiliate links that are down there as well. And that's all the housekeeping we're going to do, because I told you, as we near the end of season 1 of the live show will slowly begin to evolve and change, especially with season 2. So I have a lot of cool ideas that are going to come up with the second season of the live experience, some enhanced channel branding, graphics, visuals, all sorts of different, aesthetic changes to the show that's going to make it feel like a totally new experience, right? But same message delivered, same value, but with a new, glamorous, shiny new coat. But we are discussing avoiding bad PC advice during today's live stream, because I tell you what, we're going to jump right over into it. And if you're just now joining us again, welcome to the live show. This is an interactive live experience for our replay viewers and for our viewers who are right here with us right now. This is very much a live interactive experience. So at any given point, share in your victories, share in your your pain points, share in your losses as well. It's not, you got to take the good with the bad, right? So share those things with the community and with the chat. And if you have any questions about anything discussed here during the live show at any time, please feel free to drop them right here in the live chat, or for our replay viewers, leave a timestamp and drop it down in the comment section below. I would love to interact with you all as well. Now let's jump over to our title card and jump right into the warm-up, because it's a process, right? It's a process. It's a delicate and procedural process with mounds of information and misinformation sought out by new and experienced builders right here online, that's meant to help make that procedure from research to assembly a fail-proof endeavor, right? But through the online noise, all the noise that's on the internet, right? I'm sure a lot of you have seen it in forums and what have you, but through the online noise, there echoes both good advice and bad advice for PC gamers. And to assure your next or current build performs beyond its life expectancy, right? What is some good advice and bad PC advice you should avoid? That is what we are discussing during this YouTube live stream, while of course answering any and all of your questions along the way. And if you're new here, if this is your first time to the live stream, I'm Terrence, aka Lab, your host and operator of this here ride. And with that out the way, let's get it geared up. I'm fired up. Let's just jump right into it and and jump right into the conversation with the first bit of advice that you should avoid. We're going to switch back here, and that is overspend on your hardware. I know you've likely come across this information. I know you've likely seen it in forums again, like I mentioned a few seconds ago. But essentially, doing this, if you're out there and you're looking to, you're in that class of either again building, right, building a PC for the first time, or getting back into PC gaming, like building a modern PC, or you're looking to upgrade your PC or upgrade a certain component or a certain a certain something that's holding performance back, if you will. But doing, overspending on your hardware could actually introduce diminishing returns, especially in terms of diminishing returns, especially when you're looking at missing out on wasted performance or unused features, or say buying a high refresh rate monitor with a mid-tier graphics card, or even vice versa. Say you have a standard 60 hertz monitor, but a high-end, graphics card on the XX80 series or XX70 Super series on up. This could also, when you're given the advice to say, oh, dude, or hey, overspend, go all out, overspend, try to future proof. You know what we say here in the community. It's not necessarily about future proof, and it's more so about trying to keep up with the future. It's becoming more and more challenging to actually future proof your system, especially when it's more so the games and the applications, the programs are becoming more and more sophisticated and more complex for the hardware to render. Especially when you look at newer features like visual super fidelity or fidelity super resolution over on AMD sides and AMD's RTX technology and DLSS technology, right? Games are becoming more and more complex, more and more with more and more details and AI that's able to perform sophisticated tasks, and also AI that's able to do things like uh, ray trace real time lighting, right, and global illumination, and casting real time shadows, sharp shadows, detailed shadows. The technology in games advances faster than the hardware does. Games are becoming more and more demanding. 1080p as a resolution is becoming, it's more and more popular now, but we're starting to see gamers migrate over to, especially over on a PC platform, migrate over to that sweet 2560 by 1440p resolution that we see so much, at least here on the channel. I talk about that resolution a lot, and honestly, if I am benchmarking or if I am reviewing or testing a graphics card with at least 6 GB or more of VRAM, and it's a modern graphics card, then I'm almost certainly going to test it at 1440p, because I strongly feel as if you could leave yourself open to a flexible upgrade path. We've preached this a lot here on the channel, but you can leave yourself open to a flexible upgrade path when your graphics card has enough VRAM, the right amount of VRAM, to run the particular games of your choice at 1440p. 2560 by 1440p, right? Standard 16 by 9 aspect ratio. That 2560 by 1440p monitors are also starting to become a little bit less costly, starting to cost a little less as well, especially when you're looking at, say, a 2560 by 1440p 75 hertz monitor. To me, it's one of the best resolutions you could game at. You all know here in the community, those of you who are regulars on the show, I game at ultra wide. I prefer ultra wide as a resolution. I know it's not for everybody. It does take up a lot of space, but 2560 by 1440p is a very well-rounded area to be in terms of high graphic fidelity and a balanced refresh rate, one that's playable at least 2 to 3 times what you could achieve on a console. And again, this is with native resolution output, no behind the scenes trickery or magic, unless you're using DLSS. I've done videos using with DLSS on the RTX 3090. That video hasn't performed as well as I thought it would, but DLSS could very much be a niche feature, something that not a lot of people are even interested in enabling. If you have a graphics card, right, an RTX 20 series or 30 series graphics cards that even supports DLSS. I tested it a lot, and I'm gonna switch back here because I was indifferent to DLSS. It really depended on the game and how much more performance I was looking to unlock or achieve. Now, with the mini ITX build review we did last week with Sparta Rules 1993, where we built his build, I was going to test Call of Duty Warzone using DLSS, right? Like the DLSS update had just came right along the conclusion of that video, like near the end of that video. So I didn't test it, but I did let Brother Sparta Rules know that I'm pretty sure by enabling DLSS on the RTX 3060 would give you at least a 15 to 20% FPS output or FPS output depending on the level of graphics you are playing at, but you could definitely be over 120 to 144 FPS with DLSS enabled. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend you give it a watch. You can also find that down in the description box below, aka the basement. So much helpful information down there. But switching back, because one of the biggest downsides to say overspending on your hardware, normally when an inexperienced builder hears this, the first thing that comes to mind is I need to overspend on my power supply unit. Like I need to go all in. That's the only way I could guarantee that I'll have enough, power to power all my components. I won't run into any issues. I won't fry my system. I won't fry my motherboard. I won't fry my graphics card. Sorry, I'm sweating. That's because I'm evangelizing, y'all. I'm preaching. But you could you could waste a lot of money, and not only just money, fam, but heat and energy as well. If your system only has an FPS output, or I'm sorry, a wattage, an expected wattage output of say 3 to 400 watts, right? Maybe it's a mid-tier system, but you go out and you buy a 1200 watt power supply unit with say a Gold Plus rating. So much of that is being wasted in electricity and heat that you are literally frying. If anything, the only thing you're frying really is your wallet, right? Like your money in your wallet. TMZ says bad advice would be get a cheap power supply, right? So okay, just like on while we're on that subject, because you're absolutely right, it's also just as important to not skip on your power supplies. It's one of the reasons why we preach a lot here in this community, right? In our PC gaming community, to do your research, do extensive research on your system. Know how much wattage, the expected wattage output for your CPU, especially, and your GPU, especially if you're going with a dedicated video card. Use tools like PC Part Picker to calculate the wattage. Normally, CPU vendors have the expected wattage listed, right? With AMD showing the total draw power, or how much power it's going to draw with its boost clock frequencies. Intel not so much, so you need to add about 30 to 40 watts on top of that calculation. But do your proper research. Know how much you're going to need. If your system has an expected wattage of say about 350 watts, then a 600 watt power supply, say a 600 fully modular power supply, 600 watt fully modular power supply, could serve your build very well, especially if you don't have any immediate interest in upgrading down the road. That's a slightly good balance to be at in terms of how much power should I have and how much power do I actually need. But most importantly, don't skip out on your power supply. Power supply prices have become inflexible here as of recently, but with graphics cards like the newer 30 series requiring 600 watt and 750 watt power supplies for their higher end cards, starts to make you think that going with an 850 watt power supply, especially if you are interested in higher end components, as you scale your interests, right? As you scale your interests, as you start to go higher and higher in class, then you have to consider upgrading or at least increasing other areas of your build. For example, if you're looking at a higher end graphics card, then consider going with a slightly higher end power supply unit. Just something to take into consideration. We did run an extensive live stream on that conversation on power supply units. Of course, if for the uninitiated who've made it this far in the live streams or in the replay, or if you're here now and you didn't know, I leave all of our live streams up as they are, and as of here recently, I've been trying to pick and pull some of the most effective and meaningful moments from our live shows, and you all know what those come in the form of. Those are weekly highlights. But awesome bit of information, TMZ. Absolutely. Definitely don't skip out on your power supply. If you ever get that recommendation, say in the forums, because of course that's becoming more and more popular here in 2021. If you have questions, the internet is a quite extensive resource library. So you could actually find information on in forums with conversations that took place years ago, but that could maybe provide you with additional insight or context as to what it is you're trying to discover or trying to try to figure out on a particular component. But if you ever see that bit of information where it might say, hey, don't worry about getting an expensive power supply unit. You don't really need, you just need a basic power supply unit. No, that's very much bad advice. You don't want to overspend on your power supply unit. You don't want to underspend on your power supply unit. You want to try to research your component, research your entire system so that you're not overspending, you're not underspending, but you are spending the exact amount of money you need to cover your system needs or your system's wattage expectations. Again, you can use tools. You can use tools like PCPartPicker.com, right? A lot of us are familiar here with PCPartPicker.com. But if you don't know, for the uninitiated, because I like to imagine that I want to reach, I want to talk to the experience builders. That way you can share your experience. But I also want to reach out to, you know, users who could be on the fence, right? Remember, they don't want to get their leg over the fence. They're just straddling the fence and they're not quite ready to come over to this side of the yard. I want to reach y'all too. And if that's you, do know, and you're like, well, how could I do that? Or you're intimidated by that part of the process. Like, you will read, you'll shop, but most of us like to shop for our PC parts. That's the fun part. Once you research, base your needs off of your monitor and the type of games you play. This will also reflect how much money you're going to need to get your system up and running. If you're looking to just say play competitive games at 720p, then you necessarily don't need as an extensive build, or you don't need an extensive budget. You can get by with a modest budget. Now, this is with the tech aside, because that definitely has changed the scope in terms of a budget build by adding a dedicated video card on both the new market and the used market. But doing your proper research will prevent you from having a poor performing PC. Remember, we talked about that. That's the 6Ps that we've dubbed here in the Inside the Lab community. And that's proper planning could leave you with a poor performing PC. So do your proper research. Start with the monitor, the resolution, and the refresh rate, response time you want to play at, low response time, high refresh rate. Good rule of thumb to be at, regardless if you're in a market for a monitor under $100 or a high refresh rate monitor over $249. Maybe you're in the 265 hertz or 165 hertz range. It starts with the kind of games you want to play, and then it starts with your resolution and refresh rate. Okay, that will determine how much money you need for your build. That will also make sure that you are not overspending on your hardware. Don't don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't go obsessing over features that you won't have access to or you won't be able to utilize, right? As TMZ says, researching and building shopping lists is half the fun, right? Right? I love shopping. Shopping is my favorite part with the whole entire process. Shopping is my favorite part of the whole entire process. I like shopping for cases. I like reading up on new cases. I like looking at different configurations, the different materials that are used for cases, whether they're open air. Here recently, I've become a super fan. I have a great new respect for small form factor builds after doing the mini ITX build. I would have loved to make that a series, but we had to get that beautiful machine back to Sparta Rules 1993 because that PC performed like an absolute champ. But with my newfound respect of small form factor builds, I also, with that new respect came along a newfound interest for many ITX builds and micro ATX builds, and that's why the next small form factor series we will embark on will touch bases on on all of what goes into building a small form factor build, as I have special plans for this build and I cannot wait to absolutely positively share them with you. And if you're just now joining us, like I see Tricion and the Outlaw of the South, if you haven't yet, hit that like button for me, smash the like button for me. Let's get this video out in front of as many people as possible. Let me jump right over here, and I want to welcome you, the Outlaw of the South. I believe this may be our first time we've had the opportunity of engaging with one another. The Outlaw of the South says, "Hey, what's up again? Hello to you, Outlaw. Welcome to the live show. It's good to see you. At any point, feel free to add any of your bits. If you came across good PC advice, please do share that, right? Or share it here with the community. If it's something, say, hey, Lab didn't even think of this. You should, try doing this or avoid this piece of advice. Or if you yourself have come across bad PC advice, right? And as in your journey as a PC enthusiast, also please do feel free to share at any time. Tricion, is also good to see you, young fam. Tricion says, even when you're a crypto miner, overspending on hardware is dumb. Bad decision either way. Yeah, absolutely. Because as a crypto miner, which our fellow young fam brother Tricion is a crypto miner, but for crypto miners, you essentially want to make sure you have you have operational costs, and you want to make sure your profit margin is in your favor. So each bit of hardware purchase is essentially a business decision, and overspending on your hardware can, instead of costing you money over time, could end up or making money over time. I'm sorry, I spoiled it. But instead of your hardware and your investment making you money over time, it can end up costing you money over time, and that's just not smart business. So Tricion, that's absolutely right. Same thing applies for our cryptocurrency mining friends, because you all know my stance on cryptocurrency miners. I have nothing but respect for crypto miners. I personally don't crypto mine, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't or should. I believe that it's also up to both the manufacturers, both our GPU manufacturers right now, that's AMD and Nvidia. I strongly believe that it's up to the manufacturers to meet the supply and demand of both consumer groups. So if if demand is high for PC miners or for cryptocurrency miners, and it's also high for DIY enthusiasts and DIY builders or the DIY community at large, then it's up to both AMD and Nvidia to meet the supply demands for both consumer groups, right? Because at the end of the day, we both want the same product, we both need the same product. We just have essentially different needs for them. We want to render pixels. Cryptocurrency miners, my understanding is you guys want to crunch numbers and run algorithms. So, you know, same need, but or same desire but different needs, if you will, in my opinion, to cryptocurrency miner. Thunder says, "What's up? It's good to see you, Thunder." LT is in the house, but switching back here, because on top of not not properly researching your hardware, not properly researching your hardware could also leave you with non-optimized configurations. For example, locked CPU with an enthusiast board on over on the Intel side, because all AMD chips are essentially unlocked for overclocking. But if you get a Ryzen 5 1600 and a Ryzen 5 1600X, chances are you could overclock them. Excuse me, one may boost higher than the other, but chances are you could overclock them both to about 4 gigahertz. But over on the Intel side, that would be the equivalent of, say, getting a 11700 or a 10700 or a 10600 and a Z series chipset like a Z490 or Z590 motherboard. You won't be able to manually overclock your CPU. And you can say, well, I don't care, Lab. I'm not even interested in that. Then you would want to step it down to an H series motherboard, and then you also could carry on down additional savings by not worrying about a feature that you're not going to use. Rather, if you didn't think about it, where you say, man, I didn't know that a non-K Intel CPU means that the CPU has a fixed frequency, meaning that it would only boost to a certain speed so long as it has adequate cooling in both terms of a cooler and ambient temperatures, and how well your case moves air. Tristan says, the thing I love about crypto mining is that you can make extra money on the side with your gaming rigs. And that's something I'm a big advocate. So that's what's up. And again, I love that our gaming machines could make us money, even if it's a side hustle, even if it's just a couple $100 on the side. A couple $100 on the side may not be a lot to many, but to most of us, it could free up some additional resources for us to do things that we maybe couldn't do before, or just make passive money by just having our machines left on and just running some, and just, just running the mining programs and just making a little bit of extra money, like Tricion said. The Outlaw of the South says, what do you think is the move for a CPU, AMD or Intel? That's a good question, Outlaw of the South, and it's funny you say that because I have a highlight that's coming out on Monday. I'm going to say it's coming out Monday. It is coming out Monday. I've been editing it and working on it over the week, but I have a video that's coming out on Monday that points out the pros and cons to both AMD and Intel. Right now, the move I would say favors AMD, but Intel's 10th series CPUs have dropped down in prices dramatically. So it really could boil down to your needs. If one would ask AMD or Intel, it could really boil down to what it is you're trying to achieve on your system. Do you need a 6-core CPU or do you need an 8-core CPU? 6 cores, you're not looking to do anything other than just gaming. Most games still very much use 4 to 5 cores right now, with some games scaling well with more than 6 cores. But if you're only looking to game, say 1080p, nothing beyond that for any time soon, then Intel right now could be the better buy. Historically, and by historically I say within the last couple months, I would have said AMD. I still say AMD. I say AMD if you have an enhanced workflow. You're not just gaming. You're streaming like I am now, or like we do on our pop-up live streams, Outlaw of the South, which I'm not sure if you are familiar, but we do pop-up live streams, and that's going to change also with channel memberships, y'all. Channel memberships is coming. I'm so hyped to talk about that. We're going to do a dedicated stream around that time as we are on schedule. Like I said, channel memberships would be live before the end of August. Sorry, I'm starting to go off in the different directions, but I had said channel memberships would be live before the end of the summer, most importantly by the end of August, and it's already in the queue and just waiting for approval from YouTube. So more information on that coming soon. But previously, I would have said AMD for any workload that will require 8 or more cores. On the AM4 socket, even right now, it's a better socket to be on over the next 2 years. I had made a prediction, or I make a prediction in that highlight from that live stream, and I said, will we get an AM4 plus socket or an AM5 socket with the next generation of Ryzen? That remains to be seen. But if you jump on board right now with, say, a B550 motherboard and a 5600X on your socket, you would at least be able to upgrade to up to 16 cores. That's not, you won't have that same affordability over on the Z series chipset which you would only max out with the 10 core 10900K, which is still very much a solid option for a system that's meant to do so much more than even just gaming and streaming and editing video. So, but if you had a budget of between, say, $300 to $400 starting out, I would point you in the direction of Intel. If you're looking to 1080p gaming, high settings, 60 hertz, 75 hertz monitor, an i5 10600K. Last time we checked, we're going for under $200, $189 over on Microcenter. That's slightly less than, say, a 5600X, but it really could depend on your needs. AMD or Intel, I'd say it starts with, what are your needs? What are you looking to get out of your system? Are you only looking to game? Are you interested in doing more, right? Like right now you could say, well, I just want to play some games. Okay, maybe I want to stream Overwatch too. Maybe a couple months I want to stream Overwatch, or I want to stream CS:GO or Rainbow Six Siege, something along that lines. Then definitely AM4 socket is the way to go. You have a upgrade path, at least on the CPU socket, that's going to stretch further than the Intel LGA 1200 socket, which is going to become not obsolete, but essentially outdated when Alder Lake comes on the LGA 1700 socket. So it's going to be all new motherboards, all new chipset. So if you go Intel, you're stuck on a Z590 Z590 chipset, I'm sorry, no higher than a 10900K upgrade. over on the AM4 socket, you could at least upgrade to a 5950X should you feel the need to take on an extensive CPU workload. Running a CPU that has 16 cores and 32 threads, or the 5900X at 12 cores and 24 threads, or you could stay on the Ryzen 3000 series line of family CPUs and go with a 3900X or a 3950X. A lot of different options. Right now, I think the 3700X and the 3800X are good value 8-core CPUs that you can buy right here, right now. So if your workload is in excess of 8 or more cores, the move would be definitely AMD. But if you were looking to just solid single core, fast performance, strong IPC for strong gaming performance, then Intel is definitely the way to go. You can go with the 10600K for around $219 or under $200. It's over $200 over on Amazon, but under $200 if you are by a Micro Center. You all know how much we love Micro Center. Micro Centers, please, if y'all listening, hit me up. Sponsor me. We got to get out there. I wanted to link with Last Rights. Last Rights is a local here in my state, and Last Rights was down at my Micro Center. Last Rights, I don't think you're here, but apologies. Sorry I couldn't make it, but like I said, definitely want to make it down there. But yeah, that to answer your question, Outlaw, diatribe over which one's better. But 8 or more cores, right? With a production content creation like production workflow, definitely the move for you would be AMD. Just gaming, single core performance, go with Intel. Right now, 10th generation are affordable, and you can still very much go with the newer chipset and you know upgrade your CPU, say from an i5 10600K to an i7 11700K, or if you know what, you can also switch to the 11900K, which is an 8-core 16-thread CPU. Should we see, even if it's a modest price drop over on Intel side once Alder Lake drops? We just have to see. We talked about that in that live stream, and of course, it's going to come up in Monday's highlight, which I see we had a few more people join in to also catch Monday's highlight. One, hit the like button on this live stream, y'all. Come on, let's get the likes up, and of course, subscribe to catch videos like the one I just mentioned Monday and all of the upcoming videos we have planned. We have a few new series coming up, a few reviews from the used market also that are a little bit overdue, but very much still relevant with everything that's going on with the 2020 and 2021 techdemic that still continues to rear its ugly mug. Come on, y'all. You know it. Tricean says I will go for AMD for multiple reasons. Absolutely. And I totally agree. I swing the pendulum a little closer to AMD's side because I really feel like you should leave, if your budget calls for it, if you have the budget in excess of $1,100 to $1,200, if you're somewhere over that $1,000 mark, chances are you could very much be in the market for a well-rounded 8-core AMD CPU like the 3700X or even the 3800X and a solid B550 motherboard or even X570 motherboard somewhere along the lines of the Asus Prime or Asus Tough line of motherboards, somewhere between $149 to $169. Couple that with say a $249 to $299 Ryzen 7 3700X, you have a solid 8-core 16-thread AMD CPU, right? And AMD just opened up new features on those CPUs. It is available only on select microcode or BIOS manufacturers who have the BIOS code microcode. So again, proper prior planning will prevent you from a poor performing PCs. It's the 6 Ps of PC gaming that we preach here and Inside the Lab. Patrick O'Neill, it's good to see you, fam. Patrick O'Neill, I believe this is the first time we had the opportunity to meet. I would have remembered the name, fam. It's good to see you, Patrick O'Neill. Patrick O'Neill says, he says, i7. I love Patrick. Patrick comes in with humor, man. Patrick says i7 or i5. No, I'm kidding. You killing it, bro. Keep it up. I definitely appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know, super chats are also available on the channel. They are nowhere near required, but of course appreciated. I appreciate your tips. Every small amount, from $1 to $5 to $10, it all goes directly to funding this operation and my journey on my path to becoming a full-time content creator. But i7 or I'll answer your question, i7 or i5, I will definitely tell you you know, we can also squeeze in R5 too. We can also throw in Ryzen 5 as well. But if single core performance, strong IPC is what you're trying to target for the highest possible FPS output, then definitely an i5 11600K could very much serve your needs. But for anything in the excess of 6 or more cores, then you're definitely going to be in the i7 range anyway over on Team Blue, right? So to kind of flip that question that Outlaw pointed out, when Outlaw said, "What's the move, AMD or AMD CPU or Intel CPU?" Pretty much that's Ryzen right now versus anything Intel's offered up between 10th and 11th generation, Coffee Lake and Rocket Lake. But um, with with i7, with the 10700K or the 11700K selling for over $400, you got to look at choices like the Ryzen 3700X or 3800X, depending on your needs, if high FPS isn't what you're targeting. But if you got the spin and you know your needs are going to run you, and you're going to need more than 6 cores, and that's usually if you're in the field of doing more than just gaming. If you want to stream over on Twitch, excuse me, if you have aspirations to stream right here on YouTube or be a content creator, which if you do, let me know, because I would love to rap with you. That was one of the tiers that was going to be included in our channel memberships, but I'm saying too much, and I got to save that for that dedicated video. But I do appreciate it, Patrick O'Neill. Patrick O'Neill says, keep it up. We definitely will, and we're going to jump right back here into the meat and bones of the conversation as we were talking about overspending on your hardware, as we are exploring the conversation of avoiding bad PC advice for all of you who have just tuned in and joined the weekly live show. So during this segment, we talked about how this could introduce diminishing returns or wasted performance on unused features. You could also, have wasteful heat and energy, especially if you're going with a larger than required PSU, or your case doesn't have adequate airflow. And if you're interested in a budget PC case, I did a review on the Montex X1, and I do want to share a little bit of sauce on that video because I didn't mention it in the review, but my daughter actually picked that case out. Like, my daughter picked that case out. I told her what was compatible with her motherboard. I said, hey, you would look for a full-size ATX case, and she did. And so she picked that case out without much of my direction and guidance. She did it on her own. She picked it out. She ordered it out. It came, and I said, hey, let me review this case for anybody else who could be interested in looking for a budget alternative case that not only performs well in terms of how well it moves air, but also in terms of its looks. And to give you a quick peek into that video, I still highly recommend you watch it. It's under 8 minutes long. It's what I call a hot review. I still recommend you watch it. It has some high level production going on there, but the case is actually a solid option at $60. I like the option that was mentioned in the comment section over there by a user in the community, which was also a solid recommendation as well, if that's the case you want to go with. But the Montauk X1, the price fluctuates and sometimes can be had for slightly under $55. But if that case, if that case fits all of your needs, especially your components, that's the core part. If it fits all of your needs and it's something you want to drop on, hey, definitely give that video a watch. See if the Montec X1 is something you're interested in. It's not a sponsored video. In fact, I looked up the brand on Twitter, and their Twitter isn't even active. So only thing I wanted to ensure was that if there was any value in that case, I communicated that effectively with any and all viewers here in our space. Patrick O'Neill says, I can't give a super chat right now, but I will subscribe. I'm in the Java information industry, but you got a subscriber. Hey, Patrick O'Neill, I appreciate you subscribing to the community. Welcome to our community, fam. It's totally okay. I don't want anybody to feel obligated to drop a tip or drop a super chat. They're always there, and hopefully here pretty soon I'll have access to super thanks, and so you guys and gals could drop a tip at any given time. But it doesn't matter because I appreciate your subscription here to the channel. And if you're just now joining us, do be sure, if you have a chat, if you can't stay, hit the like button, and hopefully, just like Patrick O'Neill there, brother Patrick, Hopefully, I am entertaining and educational enough to have earned your subscription here to the community. It's so much more than just say asking, hey, can you subscribe to the channel? Subscribers are great and all, but most importantly, I want to build a connection, especially right now while I am micro and growing, and I can have a personal conversation and a personal relationship with members and viewers in the community, like Sparta Rules 1993, who's not here, or TMZ, the Mrs. Zombified, and Your Highness, just to name a few off the top of my head. There's so much more. Cliff, XLR Gaming, WASD Moves, so many different names. Uh, just I appreciate every single one of you guys, your subscriptions, and just tuning in here to the show. All of those, it really means a lot. It really goes a long way. As I see Mad Meech drops the super chat. Hey, appreciate that. Or the super sticker. Right, I'm sorry, I see the super sticker. Hey, that's what's up. I appreciate it. Got the dumbbell going on. I appreciate you, Mad Meech. It's good to see you. We haven't seen you in a while. I appreciate the super chat. I have some cool ideas designed around super chat. As soon as I get the show season 2 up and running, it's going to be dope. It's going to be live, but I appreciate the super chat. Each and all of your contributions help goes to funding the mission, funding the operation. And Matt Meach, it's good to see you, fam. Thanks for the super chat and kicking the supers off. I also give a shout out at the end of the live streams to all of the super chats and super stickers that you guys graciously shared with me. So if you're not following me on Twitter, do be sure to follow me on Twitter. I follow back all Lab fam, but follow me over on Twitter at Inside the Lab YT. Again, I give a shout out to all of our super fans and our super chats and super stickers at the end of the live show. Matt Meach says, yo, yes, Matt Meach, it's good to see you, fam. So we were discussing a few reasons on why you should avoid the PC advice. If you hear, hey, dude, overspend on your hardware, overspend on your power supply unit, overspend on your case, don't overspend. Don't try to future-proof your system. Your goal should be to be able to keep up with the future, keep up with the swift and changes that video games are starting to undergo. They're starting to become more and more complex, designed around higher resolutions and with more and more sophisticated AI systems like real-time ray tracing and AI that's able to think and process like have actions that are based off of memory. A good example of this is in the Shadow of the Mordor games, right? If you play Shadow of Mordor and you know their Nemesis system, that's a perfect example on how AI could possibly change in video games as it becomes smarter. Now, it wasn't great in the second one, I will honestly admit, but in the first one, it was well implemented, and them just hunting you down and the AI just remembering. Games are based off of scripts and game logic, but the illusion that game presents, that that the Nemesis system is working and that those enemies are actually hunting you down because they remembered you, it was executed really well. And if AI can continue to evolve and change, that means that regardless of how popular graphics cards become and how popular higher resolutions become, so long as complex AI needs to be processed and calculated, your CPU is always and still very much will remain a factor, along with your RAM configuration. How much RAM you have will very much remain a factor regardless of the resolution you are gaming at, regardless if you're gaming at 1080p, 1440p, and yes, even 4K to some extent depending on the game. Even at 4K, your CPU definitely will have to put in work. If there is a lot of complicated AI, your CPU is going to have to work in tandem with your graphics card. You might have seen this. You might have seen this in the RTX 3090 review I did, where I tested it on the RTX 3090 in my Threadripper 1920X. That could very much starting to show her weight or show her age. I still very much think it's a solid 12 core 24 thread modern CPU, especially being that I picked it up for $169. I met a lot of great community members on that series, and folks like Patrick O'Neill and Outlaw, if you're still here, definitely find that playlist down in the description box after this live stream. If you want more Inside the Lab and you want binge-worthy content, find that playlist down in the comment section or down in the description box below. We call it the basement here in this channel, but jump down there after the conclusion of this live stream and give that series a watch. The story, is impactful even to this day. I picked up that 12 core 24 thread Threadripper CPU over on eBay for 169 USD. Triceon says, or I'm sorry, let me jump back because TMZ says you don't need a UPS would be bad advice. So that's the backup battery, right, for your system. This is especially important if if you live in an area that is susceptible to storms and power outages. You very much could need one, right? So I totally agree, TMZ. Saying you don't need one is bad advice. Research your machine, research your system, base it off of all of your needs. If you're spending $1,000 on anything, here's a little bit of lab advice here, a little bit of lab life advice, if you will. If you're going to spend, don't say, I'm not even going to use the word spend. I'm going to say if you're going to invest, you spend $10 on Chick-fil-A. You spend $10 on McDonald's. You spend $1 on coffee. You don't spend $1,000 on a PC. You invest $1,000 on a PC because that machine could do so much more for you. It could even passively earn money for you. Like Triceon mentioned that we can mine with our rigs until the Ethereum 2.0 update comes in December. Triceon, we talked about that, but still, anything is susceptible. Anything could change, right? But just making sure you do your proper researching, okay, could ensure that you don't make any mistakes along the way. Which, speaking of, Tricia says, well, in this market, buying a better PSU for next-gen GPUs is acceptable, especially if you're going to skip this gen of GPUs. And you know what? I kind of talked about that in I believe it was 2 live streams ago. Did we bring that up? I believe it was 2 live streams ago where I mentioned that with the XX80 series and even higher end AMD graphics cards having 600 plus watt power supply requirements, 800 watts or 850 watts is a flexible medium to be in if you are interested in higher tier cards like those, especially if you're interested in next generation XX80 series cards, which, bold prediction here, I think they're just going to be better power efficient. Kind of a flip from what we've seen here, although as of recently we've saw the power requirements or the power draws uptick in between generations. But I do think, say, the 40 series may be better power efficient than the RTX 30 series, and that'll kind of be the illusion of price, where, oh well, these are much more efficient graphics cards means better performance, lower temperatures, and all of those other good things. But a good balance to be in 850 watts if you're looking in XX80 series line of graphics cards. But if XX60 and 70, maybe 650, 750 will be able to leave you enough headroom to either upgrade to that next line of or next class or next generation of graphics cards. It'll be close, but you'll meet the overhead requirement, which is still inflated slightly. It's never it never really hits that target mark, right? Like that exact figure, that exact number. Patrick O'Neill says, as a programmer, I will be given a laptop for a job, but how do I plan a personal PC for myself? Gotcha, Patrick O'Neill. So great question. And again, you are in the right community. So tools like PCPartPicker.com, maybe I'll bring it up here really fast to better illustrate that. But tools like PCPartPicker.com is a good place to start, Patrick. And I'll show you here in a second. I'll switch back so you can see. But if you go to PCPartPicker.com, you can start your planning process here. Start your research, right? Like you said, AMD or Outlaw asks a question, AMD or Intel CPU, what's the move? Like, what's the look right now? Using tools like PCPartPicker.com, especially when you're searching in compatibility mode, can help limit any mistakes or most mistakes along the way, especially in terms of trying to match compatible hardware with one another. So to start your research phase, like you said, as a programmer, I will be given a laptop, so you're good there. But how do I plan How do I plan my PC for myself? Like I mentioned earlier in this live stream, it's going to start with how much money you're willing to spend. The graphics card situation right now in the market is utter crap. Just to keep it simple, to kiss right now, we're just going to keep it simple. The graphics card situation still sucks right now. Graphics cards are overpriced. Um, the situation hasn't improved a great deal. And so to get a graphics card, you're going to need to start with a budget of at least $500 off the back to have a dedicated video card. Of at least $500, and even then you're in the range of like a 16 series Nvidia graphics card or a slightly lower AMD graphics card, which I would definitely advise not going that direction if you could, like if you wanted to build right now. That is just the reality of it. But an overall well-rounded budget to start at, we talked about it in a lot of different live streams, would be about $1,000. This is what I would start. It's about $1,000. That way you can take the core of your components, say your CPU, if we were to price it out with say a Ryzen 7 3700X, because it's what we talked about earlier in live stream. And this is kind of off topic, but just hang with me because we're gonna swing through this really fast here for Patrick O'Neill. But if you wanted to build your system, and like Tricion and myself and many others have recommended, AMD is the move, especially if you're interested in a CPU with more than 8 cores, as this is about $100 and something less than even the 8-core 10700K. But you can go to Ryzen 7 3700X. It's an 8-core 16-thread CPU, a B550 motherboard. It's what I would recommend just to avoid having to worry about updating the BIOS, or to make sure that the motherboard has the necessary BIOS to run the 3000 series CPU. I would go with the newer chipset also, and if that way you want to upgrade to a 5800X, that's the CPU I just used in the mini ITX build. You can watch that video. It's the Mission Impossible building a mini ITX build gaming PC in 2021 or what have you. You can check that video out because we use the 5800X. So you could start with a 3700X newer chipset like the B550 chipset or X570, depending on how much you had to spend. I said $1,000 would be a good place to start, but you could flex that if you have more or less. But a good thing about PC Part Picker, Patrick, and anybody else who could also be on the fence and interested if you're on the replay, and you want to also find out, hey, how do I start? What's a good start? Or like share this video with a friend and family member if you know that they are in the same boat and they're lost out at sea. Guide them here to us, y'all. We will be more than happy to get them on the right path. But PC Part Picker will let you know if there are any compatibilities with your build. For example, if this CPU didn't come with the cooler, which the Ryzen 7 3700X does, it comes with a stock air cooler, the Wraith Prism, I believe. It comes with the stock air cooler, perfectly fine for the average consumer, especially if you have no interest in overclocking your CPU. That's a whole different conversation. But the Ryzen 7 3700X B550 motherboard, the CPU comes with a cooler. This motherboard out of the box supports the CPU. If it didn't, PC Part Picker would give you a warning right here, and then it would tell you, with the compatibility issues down here at the bottom. But as you can see here, no incompatibilities found. If this didn't come in a CPU cooler, it would say, hey, warning, the 3700X doesn't come with the CPU cooler. Or if this was, say, an X470 chipset or a B450 series chipset, then it would also tell me, hey, that motherboard may need a might need a BIOS update to run that CPU, as a fair warning. So to avoid those, a good rule of thumb I would recommend is newer chipset, previous generation CPU. Chances are much higher that it will be compatible out of the box without you having to worry about updating the motherboard. So as you can see, we're at $399. You go over to your RAM, and you can, again, RGB, not RGB. This could totally depend to you. I'm certainly down with RGB. I like RGB. Some people like static builds or, solid colors, and that's okay too. But it may cost you a little bit extra if you want things like RGB, as you can see here on this Corsair Vengeance, and that's just with the RGB here down the line. I actually use this same memory, but it's the white variant. For Snow White, my go-to editing rig here. I use the same memory, and I love its RGB features. It's set to kind of rain down white and blue. It's pretty cool. But if not, then again, you can save money. Don't overspend on unused features or features that you have no plans on using. So if you didn't care with RGB, you can go with the standard 16 gigabytes is what we recommend for a gaming PC. It's a good number to be at. Now for here, as you can see, we're at $477 for our core three components: memory, CPU, and motherboard. And this is why I said $1,000 would be a good start. And as you can see, we're already creeping close to over that with us being at $477, and we haven't added our storage and our case and our power supply unit. So even then, you could very much find yourself having to modify your budget. If you don't need 8 cores, lower it down to a 6-core CPU. Or if you say, hey, I know I'm going to want to edit pictures and edit photos in Photoshop, edit some videos, live stream some games, I'm going, more cores, the better the workflow. I definitely want to invest in 8 cores or more, but if not, you can also drop it down to say a 6-core Ryzen 5 3600 and save a little bit more money as well on that end. Trisan says, why not a 5600X? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So you could go with the 5600X. The 5600X is about $75 more, and it's a shame because on Amazon was running the sale, it's $249. You could go with the 5600X. It would put us over that $1,000, and as you can see, we would have to switch it out because the B550 motherboard doesn't support the 5600X without a BIOS update. So this is that incompatibility warning PC Part Picker would give you. So to supplement that, I would go with didn't mean to do that. I would go with a newer chipset. I will go with the Enthusiast chipset and go with the 57X570 motherboard if you had to spend to go with a 5600X. And let me price out one here. I don't see the ASRock. Nope. Nope. Wow. X570 motherboard prices have gone up here as of recently. And again, that's why if you can get your feet into a Micro Center, if you are by a Micro Center, highly recommend you get to one. Last Right says, how's it going, everyone? It's good to see you, Last Rights. Welcome to the live. It's good to see you. I missed everyone, man. I missed everyone. I really did. We're trying to help Patrick O'Neill, just kind of give him an idea of, how to get started on planning their PC. So we were using PC Part Picker, also discussing bad PC advice to work with avoiding bad PC advice to get started with PC gaming. So doing this actually fits with the theme of today's live stream. So it's good to see you, fam. Welcome. Can't find an affordable X570 chipset motherboard other than the X Prime X570, which still looks like we may need to update the motherboard. But as Triceon pointed out, you get the Gigabyte B550 Elite V2. You can update it with the USB. It takes 3 minutes. So does the Gigabyte B550, the Elite V2, I believe that actually does have support for QFlash Plus, where you can update the BIOS without a CPU. Patrick, if that's something you found yourself, if that was you or you find yourself in that situation, I would try to work with a local PC vendor or system integrator that could take care of that for you, or could very much walk you through that process. Trisound said it's the cheapest ATX B550 motherboards I can find too. And they said, yeah, it's not cheap for you. Yeah, it's prices have slightly gone up over on the B500 series chipset, I've noticed, and especially at X570. But I do want to point out, don't always rely on PC Part Picker's prices. They are just pulling from whatever vendor is available online. So Amazon prices may vary, Micro Center prices may vary, but to avoid any issues out of the box, this is why prior proper research could save you from a poor performing PC, or one that prevents you from being able to finish. Tresan says, yeah, I used the QFlash Plus thing a couple of times before. I didn't have much luck. Let me switch back here really fast. As again, Patrick O'Neill, this is why we say right now a good budget starting out is at least $1,000. You would be somewhere in between a 6-core or an 8-core CPU, 8 core, 6 core thread, 8 core, 16 thread, 6 core, 12 thread CPU over on AMD or Team Blue side, um, with a newer chipset, either on the B5 series, B500 series range or X500 series range. But most importantly, with wanting to add a dedicated video card at a minimum right now with the current state of the GPU market, both new and used. And if you're interested, say, I'll take a gamble on a used graphics card. There is some risk involved with buying a used graphics card. There certainly is. Buying any used component, buying anything used for that matter, whether it's a car or any a cell phone or a tablet. There are some risks associated, but with that risk, there could be some value unlocked as well. So going on the used market is one avenue you could take, but regardless, having a dedicated graphics card, a dedicated video card, which is what we recommend for most gamer situations. I'm going to do a review of an upcoming APU CPU. It's a mouthful, so do keep a lookout for that. But for intense gaming or high quality gaming, then you're going to want to add a dedicated video card. You're going to want to add at least $400 to $500 to your budget at a minimum. At least $450 at a minimum. Okay. But I'm sorry, not last rights, but Patrick says so it would be modular that I can buy and replace or add to. That's a great question, Patrick. And yes, you would be able to add to this system. Most importantly, let's say you went with this motherboard. This motherboard has support for M.2. So if you wanted to start off using just a standard SATA SSD, you can always add an NVMe M.2 down the road for faster storage, faster read and write speeds. But most importantly, you could make changes to your case. We didn't even get to case shopping for cases yet, because cases could really depend on how much you want to invest in the overall look and aesthetic of your system. But you have a lot of different choices there. But going with the DIY system, especially with a custom case, yes, you very much could make changes to it throughout the lifespan of your system, going from, say, an air cooler to an 120 or 140 millimeter AIO. That's an all-in-one liquid cooler if you wanted to water cool your CPU for lower temperatures and less noise, because you're not dependent on air, keeping your CPU cooled. Maybe you want to add RGB fans. The list goes on and on. Custom cables if you're rocking with a semi-modular power supply unit. But absolutely, Patrick O'Neill, you would be able to add to it. It definitely would. Your case, for the most part, would be modular. Your power supply unit could be fully modular, as well as you could replace the cables with custom cables. This really just enhances the look of your system. I have custom cables in my Threadripper build, and I use them in that review of the RTX 3090. Again, if you want to see how fast is fast on the RTX 3090 at 1440p and 4K, definitely watch that video. Trisound says, okay, yeah, I used QFlash. Sorry, I read that. Yeah, QFlash. I was saying before I was signing off for Patrick, but Patrick, if you have more questions, hit me up over on YouTube. Hit me on YouTube, but definitely follow me over on Twitter and Instagram. I will help you along the way as much as I can. Yeah. Triceon says about QFlash Plus. I didn't have much luck with QFlash Plus. I tried using it with the mini ITX build. The Gigabyte motherboard we were using, I looked up online, and other users were having issues as well using QFlash Plus to update to the F30 BIOS update needed to run Ryzen 5000. Seemed like the problem was more relative to that motherboard and that BIOS update in particular. But QFlash Plus was not trying to play fair with or play well with me, at least to get into that BIOS update. So what I did do, to share a little bit of additional context on that video, I end up flashing the BIOS. I used QFlash Plus to actually flash it all the way back to like just the standard BIOS, just the regular BIOS, and it worked. QFlash worked to do that, because I knew that wasn't the BIOS it was running out of the box because of when it was manufactured. But I had, flashed it all the way back to the first BIOS that was available for that motherboard, and then just used the physical CPU to update the BIOS, because QFlash Plus wasn't trying to play nice with the F30 BIOS update. But I was seeing a lot of evidence that other users were running into that issue as well with that motherboard and with that BIOS update. So it's just one of those things you got to prepare for, right? Like Murphy's Law says, anything that possibly could go wrong can go wrong, and most importantly, will go wrong. But let's switch back here as we were rounding out with the first segment block, and that was it's okay, the bad PC advice that it's okay to overspend on your hardware. We went over quite a few reasons why that's not proper advice. Um, but yeah, Kingman says, hey, Kingman, it's good to see you. I just saw your chat pop up, but Kingman says, hey, what do you think about cyber-powered PCs? Well, I think cyber-powered PCs, if you are going with one that's already built, could be an affordable option. When you're going with a pre-built like cyber-powered PC, Kingman, which if this is your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I do invite you to hit the like button for me if you're new here. If you just now jumped in and you can't stay, I totally understand. Hit the like button for me. It's going to help get this video out in front of more people while we're live and at the end of the show. But Kingman, when you're going with a pre-built like cyber-powered PC, if you have no control over the configuration of the parts that goes inside, try to target the fastest CPU for your money. Pre-builds, they hold a purpose more now than ever, given that graphics cards, dedicated DIY graphics cards, or graphics cards for DIY builders, are difficult to find at MSRP. A couple months ago, even last year, they were difficult to find in general. Now, as stock slowly, marginally starts to improve, they are available, but they are still very much inflated. They're still marked up at ridiculously high prices. So when looking at a pre-built, they definitely have their, serve their weight and material, especially CyberPower PC being one of the most recognizable brands as system integrators. But CyberPower PC systems, we looked at a few CyberPower pre-builds. I believe it was 2 live streams. I keep saying 2 live streams. We did look at a few CyberPower PC pre-builds, and I just want to add that they again could be solid options. Just target your pre-built with the fastest possible CPU for your money. If that's an Intel, make sure it's at least an i5 modern 10th generation or 11th generation CPU. If it's an AMD CPU, make sure it's at least a Ryzen 5 3600 or higher. This is going to ensure that you at least get a modern CPU. By modern, we mean came out within the last 2 years that has strong IPC, strong single core performance that's still going to drive a heck of an experience in modern games right now, games that are graphically demanding and games that are complex in nature that have sophisticated AI, a lot of all that good stuff we were talking about just now. But Kingman, to answer your question, cyber power PCs, if I could say it, cyber power PCs, solid options for a pre-build. If you're unable to build yourself, just make sure you try to get the fastest possible CPU for your money. Intel side, that's going to be at least an i5 10th generation or higher, an i7 even better, and at least try to make sure you get a system with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. Some pre-builds are also modular too, so you could also upgrade it should you should you be unable to find a system for your budget that checks off all of the needs that you're looking for, i.e. being a system with at least 16 gigabytes of DDR4. Maybe it only has 8 right now, but to get the most out of your system, to get the most out of your games, you would want to, as a side investment, add or upgrade the RAM to a 16 gigabyte kit of faster memory, especially if it's an AMD CPU. I hope that answered your question, Kingman. But if not, again, welcome to the live. Hit the like button for me, y'all. Let's see if we have more people strolling. Hit the like button. And if I haven't chat, hopefully I am entertaining and educational enough during this week's live stream. As we are getting caught up, I feel a little rusty. I feel like the screw that's been left in the floorboard for too long and just got pulled out. It's funny how just missing a week could just make you feel just so left behind. Just 1 week, and I feel like I've missed out on so much, or it feels like I haven't had the opportunity to rap with you beautiful ladies and gentlemen. Tricion says almost every other pre-built is better. Almost every other pre-built is better. So what do you like? Would you say is that skipping between price tiers, say going from a $600 pre-built to then say going to a nine to $1,100 pre-build to say going up to an $1,800 and plus dollar pre-build, because they definitely can scale. They definitely can scale. If you have the spins, especially to answer your question, King Man, if you have the spin in excess of that budget, still very much target a higher possible pre-built, or at least target a pre-built that checks off all of the recommendations: 16 gigabytes of DDR4, fast storage in the form of an SSD, a fast CPU, an i5 or a Ryzen 5 3600 or higher, or a 10th generation CPU or higher, a 9900K. Still very much a capable CPU and will serve the needs for most gamers. So you could also look at other options in that regard as well. Tricyon, I mean, sucks is a relative. I mean, that's perspective is everything. Um, what exactly make them suck? I understand pre-builds have a certain level of scrutiny that comes along with them, sure, but they still very much hold their purpose. One of the positives that CyberPower has going for them is their all-inclusive warranty model. I will give them that. That's a big plus to have an all-inclusive warranty on your whole entire system versus having to break down your warranty part by part. But again, if you can build, you should build. If you can't, then you should go with a pre-built. Patrick O'Neill says, thanks for answering, man. One last question. Linux or Windows, and how do I find your Twitter? I would definitely say I recommend going with Windows. There are more applications, more programs that support it. But if you want to fully customize your desktop experience, try give Linux a look-sees over. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. It's not necessarily my wheelhouse dealing with and working with Linux, but I would recommend for your needs just off the bat with being interested in building a DIY system would be to go with Windows. I could show you the way, as that's another bad advice that I didn't include on there, but that's for starters, spending over $100 on a Windows key. Don't do it. But you're certainly welcome. And to find my Twitter, I'm on Twitter at Inside the Lab YT. And the same thing follows for Instagram at Inside the Lab YT. So give me a follow over there. As shout out to our moderator who just dropped it in the chat, Patrick O'Neill. You can find me over on Twitter and there. When you follow me, I will definitely follow you back. Tricyon says they are bad compared to others. Usually, I've seen one PC of them that had a worse dedicated GPU than the APU. Wow, I mean, they're definitely out there. I totally agree, and I've seen my fair share of bad apples and pre-built on the market as well. And that's why I recommend when you're looking at a pre-built is try to make sure it checks off at least those three areas: fast storage, modern CPU, 16 gigabytes or more. If you're in the $1,000 plus range of a pre-built, chances are it's coming with a dedicated video card. What that video card may be could vary also by region. Brother Tricyon's over in the Netherlands, so there could be a slight price discrepancy in between the two currencies, but I have certainly seen my fair share of shady pre-builds, not just from CyberPower, but from others. But CyberPower PC, they're just one of the ones up there that you could choose from. Patrick, if you're stateside, also look into NZXT's BLD service, where you can pick out you can customize your parts and pick out certain parts or certain aspects of your build. They're slightly more expensive route versus going with an already built machine, but very much still an option you could consider. That's NZXT's BLD service. NZXT's got to stop playing and pay you, boy, for me to recommend their service. But I did do a slight segment on it during one of our previous live streams, and maybe here soon, just to kick the tires a little bit here and maybe get NZXT to look our way, right? We'll do a live stream to kind of highlight the pros and cons with going with NZXT's BLD service. But like all pre-builts, there's going to be a certain premium tax attached to it, regardless if that's CyberPower PC or insert any other generic brand DIY build or system integrator. You're going to pay more for that system because they themselves have a profit margin. They have to make sure that that the system is profitable for their brand as well. Tricion says, all right, I'm going to go, man. It's late. See everyone. I appreciate you stopping by, Tricion. Definitely will link over in the Discord, which if you haven't yet, sign up for our Discord, sign up for the community, sign up for our subscriber email list to get community updates on the Discord. But sign up for our Discord, join our Discord. We're about to have more people come in as it's going to be one of the perks over on channel memberships. But all right, beautiful conversation. I love Tricion. Love how he came in and supplemented the conversation. But all good questions. And again, if you have any questions or concerns at any point during the live show, please feel free to share them with us right here, right now. And if you are here on the replay and you made it this far, shout out to our replay viewers. Shout out to our replay fam. Let me know you're watching down in the comment section below. So first bit of bad PC advice that you should definitely avoid, that is to overspend on your hardware. Second bit of advice, which is funny because this question was brought up in the chat, and that was you need a 9.7 for gaming. And not necessarily you don't, right? It's just what I had recommended to one of the members right here in this community or right here in this audience, where I said if you just are looking for a single core performance, strong IPC, then you don't need an i7, especially with 10th generation Intel. I don't know why they didn't think of this before, or it took AMD to do it first. This is why I said at one point AMD was winning. They had a lot of things going for it with the Zen architecture. Still very much does. They still very much do. Excuse me, they still very much do. But an i5 10600K, which is a slightly faster 8700K essentially, still can get the job done. Popular bit of advice, really, this is really before the arrival of the 1600X, the Ryzen 5 1600X, which is also a 6-core 12-thread CPU. You know, I launched the Ryzen 5 1600X, $249. For those of you who don't know, at the time, the alternative option was the 7700K, Intel's 4-core 8-thread CPU. Strong IPC, sure, had a heck of a boost clock frequency and can overclock like a champ, sure. But it released at the same time of the 1500X, or the 1600X, I'm sorry, and it cost $350, and it also didn't come with the stock cooler. So it cost about $100 more than a 1600X, and you still very much had to buy a stock cooler. The 1600X came with a stock cooler. You could always, maybe you wanted better temperatures or you didn't like the way the cooler looked, but it was a heck of a cooler. Still very much could use it right now. Same thing with the 2700X. Let's say you needed a CPU with more than 6 cores. So the 2700X came, was the follow-up to the Zen Plus follow-up to the first generation of AMD Ryzen CPUs. The 2700X launched for $329. At the time, the 9700K was the alternative 8-core option, with the 9700K costing about $400. And again, you had to buy a stock cooler, so there was more that you had to invest initially with your system. And you don't need an i7 for gaming. You most certainly would want to invest in an i7 if you have aspirations outside of gaming. I keep repeating this. If you want to stream, if you want to encode, this is super labor intensive on your system. And the more cores to develop that workflow, the better the output, the better the quality of stream, the better FPS you're going to have in your games, the easier you'll be able to transition it between programs and applications, or run multiple programs and applications like I am now to maintain the stream. But a good gaming CPU range to be in would be the i5 9600K. If we're going to go back at least 3 generations, that's from the 11th to 10th, if we would drop it all the way down to say 9th generation, a good gaming CPU, 9th generation Intel, it's Coffee Lake refresh, a good CPU range to be in would be the 9600K, 6 cores and 6 threads. Again, solid IPC, higher boost clock frequencies. The 10600K, again, that's another i5, that's 6 cores and 12 threads, and then the 11600K. These are all CPUs that are under $300. If you're looking at an i7, you're going to be past that price threshold. You don't need an i7 for gaming, at least not here in 2021, y'all. Not anymore. This changed a great deal when AMD brought along that Ryzen architecture. When Zen dropped again a few years ago with that 1600X, a super popular 6-core 12-thread CPU, this enabled a lot of people to jump into content creation or to expand their workflows in terms of cores. Intel had to catch up with it again, the 8th generation 8700K, and then with the 8-core in terms of consumer desktop, because again, AMD brought more than 4 cores to the consumer desktop. Intel, you had to switch over and be on in their X and series enthusiast chipset, right? X99 and X299 and X79 to get CPU cores in excess of more than 4 cores and 8 threads. So when AMD brought along the Ryzen 5 1600X for $249, this was price to performance was born, y'all. It was the solid option versus the 4-core 8-thread 7700K. And this is why I know you don't need an i7 for gaming. Horrible advice. Bad advice. You don't need an i7 for gaming. You could very much need an i7 or an R7 3800X, 5800X if you want to do more than just gaming. But an i5 will suit your needs for most gamers who are looking to game at 1080p, especially game at 1080p, and especially game at a modest resolution like 1440p. I see we got Sparta Rules 1993 is in the house. It's good to see you. Sparta Rules says, "Hey, what's up, brother? I lost track and didn't get an alert of your live stream." Oh man, that definitely sucks, man. That definitely sucks. Sorry to hear that, Sparta Rules, but nonetheless, it is good to see you. You haven't really missed much. We are in the second block as we're discussing bad PC advice to avoid. And I know you've been on these PC streets for quite a while now, and you may have come across some bad PC advice yourself that you feel like other users themselves should avoid too. Sparta Rules 1993 is actually the owner of that mini ITX build we mentioned and discussed earlier here in the live show. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And I did see your Instagram message too. I do apologize. I couldn't get around to respond to it. Do let me know what the status update is with your RGB, Anthony. But it's good to see you nonetheless. I also did send a email out to our email subscribers once I've rescheduled the live show from last weekend. I was afraid that the notifications might have got tangled up along the way and that this might have happened. So as an assurance policy, I sent out the email with the link to our email subscribers. So in the future, just to all email subscribers and future email subscribers, do keep a lookout for emails like that where I will share the live stream notification with you, and any videos that hold great significant value to the community at large will be sent there as well, just in case you don't get the YouTube notifications, because no, they are not great. And I just want to switch here to point out that for our replay viewers and anybody here is now who's not signed up, sign up for our email list. It's what I was just referring to, our insider list. You will also get access to our community Discord at least until the end of the month when channel memberships go live. And that's because, yeah, YouTube notification, Twitter notifications, all of those notification system, there's a lot of noise online, and sometimes it's hard to sift through the noise. But having an email list like this here could help me mitigate those issues and keep a direct line of communication with the community, so you lovely ladies and gentlemen are up to speed on all future and upcoming live shows. So thanks for letting me know though, Sparta Rules 1993, that you didn't get the notification system. But again, welcome to the live show, and I know you're subscribed, but hit the like button for me if you haven't yet. Sparta Rules in 1993, and all who've joined and subscribed if you haven't yet and you're here on the replay and you've caught this live stream and you're like, who the heck is this lab guy? I'm hooked, I'm interested, I want more content. You're going to want to subscribe with the notification bell to catch that content in the future, because we have a lot of good videos coming up, and I cannot wait to share, along with just content programming in general, especially with channel memberships. I made a promise with myself and my cat Piper that we weren't going to talk about it during this live show. We were going to save it for a dedicated show when we launch, and it's one of the helpful ways we will be able to get the continue the mission, or my goal to becoming a full-time, not just YouTuber. I guess that comes along with the facade, but just a full-time creator, just a full-time content creator and digital artist altogether. So keep a lookout for that. And of course, right here, right now, you could support the channel with super chats and super stickers. I'll do it me. I'll kick a quick freestyle for you or do a quick dance. We had Mad Meech who dropped a super chat or super sticker earlier. I should have kicked the bar for him. I'm not sure if you still here, Mad Meats. Let me know. I'll give you a quick 8 bars. But if you want to support the channel, right here, right now, without channel memberships, you can always drop a super chat right there down in the description box below. Every little bit helps drive the mission here. But let's switch back to the meat and bones, as we were just discussing that another bad bit of advice you should avoid is the idea, concept, logic, however you want to rate it, that you need an i7 for gaming. Most importantly, you need an i7 for 1080p gaming. That's not necessarily true. Again, my recommendation to you would be, if you want to do more than just game on your system, especially to start off, like the moment you get your system, your applications, your programs won't just be launchers. They're going to be editors and coding. Maybe you want to run a podcast, you want to run Audacity, or you want to run a streaming encoder in the background while you game, or have Discord open, or Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use to stream your music. You want to have all of these different processes going on in the background. Then yes, you would want to be in the 7 range for both Intel and AMD, a Ryzen 7 or an i7, somewhere along the lines of those two classes of CPUs. So you are in a core architecture of more than 8, right? More than 8 cores, 8 cores, 16 threads, or with a 9700K just being that doesn't have hyper threading, that it's just 8 cores and 8 threads. But again, a good CPU range, 9600K, 10600K. Sorry, I looked over the chat. I was getting ready to read Spider Rose's comment back, but I saw I responded to it, and I got frustrated again really fast by knowing that the live stream didn't go out to everybody. Again, that sucks, but because I rescheduled the stream, it just might have got tied up in folks' sub boxes. But don't worry, we're back on our normal programming, and I'm looking forward to kick off season 2 of the live show. But no, you don't need an i7 for gaming. Bit of bad advice for new builders, and even those looking to say upgrade their system, depending on your chipset or depending on your motherboard. If you're on an older platform and you're looking to upgrade to a modern platform, do know that you do not need an i7 for gaming. No, you don't. I've said it right here, right now. You don't need an i7 for gaming. You can get by with a Ryzen 5 5600X, like we pointed out, or to drop it down a generation and save yourself about $80, you can use a Ryzen 5 3600. Or if you want to switch over on Team Blue side or stay on Team Blue side, 11600K or 10600K, very much still solid alternatives. And if you're going on the Z500 series chipset, you have an upgrade path of up to 10 cores. So while, say, your needs may only be a 6-core 12-thread i5 right now, down the road, maybe 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, before 2 years, before you get at least 2 years out of your motherboard, you may want to do those things, those aforementioned things. Maybe you want to run a stream or do photo manipulation or edit videos. You have a content creation workflow. Then you also have an upgrade path to achieve those things. So you don't need an i7 for gaming. You can go with an i5 or a Ryzen 5 as solid alternatives, especially if, again, what was the first bit of advice we dropped on y'all? Don't overspend on your hardware. If you don't need 8 cores and 16 threads, don't drop over $300 on a CPU to get there. Save your money, stay within your means, stay within your budget. You're doing nothing but just pocketing those savings or putting them in other areas of your build. Most importantly, putting them in funding that graphics card, because again, right now the tech demic is still going on and they're super hard to find at MSRP. I got to keep dropping that down because they're super hard to find at MSRP. And now, the next bit of bad PC advice you should avoid is your temps are too high. My, oh my, oh my. We've seen this. I know you've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it on comments. I've seen it in comment sections. I've seen it in forums. I used to see it on Facebook groups. I'm not personally active on Facebook. We do have our Inside the Lab Facebook page with content, more exclusive content coming over there here very soon. So if you're on Facebook, so many shameful plugs, y'all. But if you're on Facebook, search me up over there, Inside the Lab. Search me up over there. I'm sorry, over there on Inside the Lab. But your temps are too high. This falls under the category of bad PC advice, obviously, if your system is already built, or if you got a pre-build, or maybe you did it yourself and you're feeling insecure. Maybe you think you did something wrong. Maybe you're thinking I didn't put enough thermal paste, or maybe I put too much thermal paste, or my CPU cooler is not great, or my GPU is not cooling adequately, my case has poor airflow, or these case fans, excuse me, that I switched to aren't all that great. Like they have flashy RGB, but they don't move air. They don't move a sufficient amount of air to help keep my CPU and my GPU cooled adequately. These could all be running rampant through your mind. But if you're seeking advice online, someone could say, "Oh, your CPU's hitting X amount. Ay, ay, ay. That could be, that's too high. Your temps are too high, dude. Something's wrong with your system." No, that's not necessarily true. And I'm gonna tell you why. But not before we give a shout out to Teresa, who says, "Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late." You're not late. You're not late at all, T. Welcome to the live stream, fam. Welcome, T. If you haven't yet, hit that like button for us on your way in. If you can't stay long, we do appreciate you, but hit that like button for us on your way in, Teresa. It's good to see you. We had to reschedule. Let me switch back here before we jump into why it's good to avoid your temps are too high when it comes to bad PC advice. But it's good to see you, Teresa. We had to reschedule the live show, the live experience from last Saturday to now. We had a lot of thunderstorm warnings during that area, and during that time, the internet can get real spotty. And it's one of my biggest fears of having the stream go out and having to restart another stream because everybody won't be notified again. But at least I believe everybody won't be notified again. As Sparta Rules shared that he didn't get the notification. Um, and it has happened to us. We have had the stream go out, and I've just restarted it, and that's because we were in it for about an hour. But if the stream is over an hour, it was pushing. If it was over an hour, it would really be counterintuitive to start another stream. So I had made the business decision of rescheduling the live stream to today. But now, Teresa, you're not late. You're right on time. You're never late. Kingman said the Cooler Master air cooler is really good. Which Cooler Master? Which Cooler Master air cooler? We use the G100M. This is the UFO design air cooler for the mini ITX build. It's a nice looking vertical downward downdraft like air cooler. It's more so for systems, in my opinion, that are flat and not vertical. But that CPU cooler still very much looked really dope and really unique. I really like it, but I do like a lot of Cooler Masters air coolers. They do have some pretty cool air coolers, but with coolers, a lot of times it's not all about looks. It's also how well do they cool. That's just as important. But Cooler Master does have a lot of solid options. And yep, Mrs. Ma shout out says, "Welcome to the live experience, Teresa." Yes, yes, yes. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Teresa. And we were actually just getting ready to jump into this bad PC advice. Your temps are too high. And again, at any time, at any point, you all know this is a live interactive. This is an interactive live stream. At any point, do feel free to share your experiences, share any bit of advice that you have come across that say, hey, that's not true. Once you built your system, you like, oh man, I could have totally avoided that had I not listened to that bit of advice, right? Sharing your victories and sharing your losses with us. And again, while it is not required, super chats are certainly welcome. If you want to drop your boy Lab a tip, you could do so. Any and all amounts help support the mission. But just know that being here with me right now supports the channel in a better, bigger way. But your temps are too high. Do know, and I mentioned this in a couple videos. I said this in a lot of different comment sections. I should just come up with a canned response. But ambient room temperatures play a factor just as much as your cooling apparatus, thermal paste, and other components, right? Like your graphics card, which is also putting off heat. Your case, which is also trying to move that heat out of the rear or the top because hot air rises and cold air sinks, with cooler air coming in through the front where applicable or where possible. But your ambient room temperatures, that plays just as much of a factor that just as much as a factor as your cooling apparatus, your cooling solution, whether that be an AIO or especially an air cooler. That's because your PC will only get as cool as the air around it. We talked about that in the live stream where we talked about keeping your PC as cool as a cucumber, because cucumbers are cooler on the inside than they are on the outside. And that's essentially what that's the struggle with heat and power with systems, with computers. The longer they run, the harder they run, the more power they're going to pull, which means the more heat they're going to generate. So it's an ongoing battle. The longer you're on your system, like now, you may see me sweat sometimes when we have our live show going access like they do now, and it's never in my here as of here recently. The goal hasn't been to let them go on as long, but I knew we were going to be on for a while because I miss you, fam. I miss you, Lab fam, and I knew I wanted to get caught up with as many of our regular viewers here. We've had the opportunity to engage with new viewers as well, like Kingman, and it was good to see Teresa, but like Kingman and Patrick O'Neill, just to name a few, just to name, having a few new members come over to the Lab fam community. Again, keep a lookout for channel memberships, y'all. Things are going to It's going to be fire. That's all I can say. But ambient room temperatures, you want to keep the surrounding air as cool as possible. This could also be a struggle depending on where you live. I live over on the East Coast here in the States, over in the tri-state area, so our seasons are fairly consistent. We have hot summers, we have cold winters, and we have mild fall and spring-like temperatures, right? It could really fluctuate. Like all this week here recently, it's been really, 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 really hot. And in the wintertime, even here where I run the show, with the window open, it could be 10, 15 degrees outside, right? With the window open and the heat, the vents closed off here in this area, it still very much gets hot in this room. And that's with the window. It could be snowing outside and the room would be evenly temperature. That's because your computer is essentially a space heater. It really is. It's generating heat, and that heat has to go somewhere. Heat wants to escape. Heat wants to continually expand. It doesn't want to stop. It wants to just continue to move in a different direction, and your system is constantly outputting that heat, especially your graphics card, the longer and harder you're running your system. So it's not that your temps are too high. Your ambient room temperatures could be high. If you can control your ambient room temperatures, you will also be able to control your system's temperatures. It will run much cooler, much cooler versus a hotter surroundings. If you have a cool surroundings, the cooler your system's going to run. Most modern CPUs also can operate, and by operate I mean at sustained lows, and temperatures in excess of like 90 degrees C. I looked up this when we benched the Ryzen 5, the Ryzen 7 5800X in that mini ITX gaming PC build. When I looked at that CPU, I said, I mean, it's hotter. It's not hot. It's just hotter than what we're normally used to seeing. I normally test with a lot of AIOs. But it was only hot due to I was testing in this area, and I test in this area only when I'm testing multiplayer games because I want to get the most out of the internet connection. So I'll use a wired Ethernet connection versus a wireless connection, which I couldn't for the mini ITX build anyway because I use a PCIe network adapter when I'm testing games, when I'm testing multiplayer games. So I brought it up here, and it gets hotter here. So it was slightly hotter here on the second level than what I'm normally used to seeing when I'm testing in the lower level, where it's much cooler. There's much more air to move around, and it's much more cooler air to be introduced to the system. But most modern CPUs can operate at high temperatures. AMD themselves have said Ryzen 5000 can safely operate in the 90 degrees C range. It's high, sure, but those CPUs are super power hungry CPUs, super powerful CPUs, and if you got the juice, it will gladly drink it, and it will gladly run fast for as long as you're able to properly keep it cooled. So it's not necessarily your temps are too high. There may need to be other accommodations you need to make to lower your temperatures. Can you introduce a fan in the area you play at? Maybe a window air cooler or a desk air cooler. Call them life hacks if you will, but GPUs too can operate in the mid 90s, high 90s while not recommended. And if it's too often, then that's something you should look into. For example, a sign that necessarily that versus, let me put it this way. Saying that your temps are too high versus identifying a real problem with your cooling solution. A good sign that there is something wrong with your cooling solution would be your CPU or your GPU, your temperatures spike to their TJ max, their maximum operating temperature when you're idling on the desktop or in the BIOS. Like before you go to fire up a pixel or tap an application or load a file, right? That will require your CPU to communicate with your RAM and what have you. But that's a sign where there's something really truly wrong with either your GPU or your CPU. Maybe your GPU is a little on the older side. Maybe it needs its thermal paste replaced because it's dried up. I replaced the thermal paste on the i5 7500 in that Montec X1 case review we did. I replaced the thermal paste on that CPU because I felt it. I'm like, wow, I don't know when the last time the thermal paste was replaced. The temperatures were fine, but I did notice they were slightly lower than when I was seeing on my daughter's PC prior to me switching over to thermal paste. And that thermal paste was really dried up. The temperatures didn't necessarily spike up to their max, but they could have been better. But if your CPU cooler is failing, or the builder, if that's yourself, or you hired somebody to do it, maybe you had a friend do it, a good sign that you don't have enough CPU, like you're like there's something wrong with your cooler, or you don't have enough thermal paste, is that you have high temperatures without doing anything. Like you're just at the desktop, or you're in the BIOS, and you just see like 85 and 90, and you're not doing anything at all. Those are signs that there's some level of degree, some form of hardware failure going on between your CPU and or your GPU. And then that is where you should look at finding out, is there a problem? Are my temperatures too high? Could it be that the area I game in is just a small environment, or it's a small room, or maybe you just live in a climate that's normally hotter, right? Like if you live out west, and you guys don't get winters and snow, to my understanding, but depending on where you are, you could experience hotter than normal temperatures, right? Or higher than normal summers. Here again, right now we're in the high 90s, I believe, Mrs. Mott. It's been like the high 90s all week. It's been a little bit of a heat wave, so it's been hot here in this environment. Like even right now, I'm sweating. We got the window open, and I still very much think my AC is on. Wow. But it is what it is. This is what I got to do to keep to try to introduce as much cool air as possible even into my environment. So that's something you should take into consideration as well with yours. Your system, when it's running hot like that, first of all, will either downclock itself, your CPU, especially if you didn't change any of the BIOS settings, and your CPU is just boosting, is using PBO 2.0, or is using Intel's turbo frequency technology, or it's Intel's boost turbo, whatever it's called, right? It's boosting up. Your clock speed is boosting up to its highest possible frequency on stock settings. No manual overclocking involved. Okay. If your CPU can't adequately cool itself to sustain those clock speeds, it'll just downclock itself. It'll just slow itself down. And so think of it like the human body. The harder you're running, the more you're going to sweat, right? The more heat you're going to output. But as you start to slow your jog, or you get into a cadence that's easier for you to maintain, and for you to go faster further, then you're going to slowly start to produce less heat, and you're going to slowly start to consume less energy. Same thing goes with your CPU and your GPU as well. It's good to try to keep your GPU cooled as much as possible, fam, because I will tell you what, you can keep your GPU cooled, the more, the higher the frequency, the more FPS you're going to have in your game, the less stuttering and the less FPS drops you're also going to experience, as that frequency is going to stay fairly consistent, fairly, fairly high, low temperature, high clock speed, right? High GPU utilization as well. But it's not so much that your temperatures are too high. Again, maybe there's just certain accommodations you need to make within your setup or area. Skitty Live is in the house. It's good to see you, Scott. He's a buddy of mine. It's good to see you, Scott. What's good? What's going on with you, bro? What's going on with you, fam? You already know what it is. We're here with a late night edition to the live experiences. We're discussing some bad PC advice. New beginners, or beginners like yourself, who are on the fence and not quite ready yet to take their leg and jump over to this side that is PC gaming. And we're sharing a few tips and advice that, one, you should avoid. That's the advice side. But a few tips you should take to heart and that you should follow. But we're kind of flipping the switch here and discussing bad PC advice you should avoid. So welcome, Skitty. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button for me on your way in or on your way out. If you're unable to stay, I totally understand. We're rocking and rolling, just trying to get caught up and get everybody back to speed and see how everything's going, because we didn't run the live stream last week. So again, I wanted to get caught up with the community, and I was talking earlier on the live stream that just missing 1 week feels like forever and a day. Feels like I haven't gone live in a month, and it's only been like what 10 days or something to that extent, 11 days. But it feels like forever in a day. So we're just here getting caught up with the community, just rapping and having a good old time on this Saturday night. So it's good to see you, Skitty. But again, if you haven't checked, hit the like button for me on your way in. And of course, if you haven't checked, replay fam, right? To my replay fam, if you haven't checked and you made it this far, you're super committed to making the next step to getting on this platform. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this community with the notification bell on so you are notified of all future content. Which, speaking of, that was the second block of bad PC advice you should avoid. And when it comes to your taking that advice of your temps being too high, it's more so bad PC advice you should avoid, because there's other factors that should be considered before just automatically taking in that bit of advice that, oh, my temperatures are too high. Yeah, you know what, you're right, they are. No, there are other factors you should take into consideration. And if that is you, if that's you and you're here with me right now, or if you're here on the replay, or you know somebody that's suffering from this, send them our way. Send them over to my Twitter at Inside the Lab YT. It's in the chat. Or to my Instagram at Inside the Lab YT. It's in the chat. And we will make that determination together. I will try to help you make the determination as if you have hardware failure, or is it just other accommodations you need to make. Maybe you need to lower the power settings in Windows, right? Maybe you need to up the fan curve on your graphics card. It's going to introduce more noise, sure, but you're also going to have lower temperatures. And if you game like me with the headset on or with the speaker turned up, chances are it won't even be noticeable. It would be worth it. The trade-off will be well worth it to help keeping your system running cooler. Remember, dust and heat is a computer's worst enemy. Those are certain component killers for sure. Those will do your system in. So it's good to not take blanket advice like your temps are too high. That's blanket advice, y'all. It's better to look at the problem at its entirety. Okay? There's other factors to take into consideration. What is your climate like? What kind of case do you have? What are your ambient temperatures? Do you know? What kind of, what kind of cooler do you have? What kind of CPU do you have? What kind of motherboard do you have? As the VRM modules and regulators are very much different in between the chipsets on both AMD and Intel. So there are a lot of other factors to take into consideration versus just taking blanket advice like your temps are too high. Nah, fam, there's other factors to take into consideration. Okay. But all right, so yeah, that's our second content block. We were just getting ready to bounce into the next one, which was cable management doesn't matter. Wrong. Cable management definitely does matter. This is especially important, again, if you are building your system yourself, or you are hiring somebody to do it for you, or even you are commissioning a friend or family member to help you along the way. Okay? Make sure that your system will be properly cable managed, okay, to the best of its ability, considering all things like space. Is your power supply modular? Is it semi-modular? Is it fully modular? So you're only using cables that are required to complete your system. Cluttered cables can, believe it or not, impede or obstruct airflow. If they're just tangled in there and mush, or they're not properly configured, yes, it could obstruct your airflow. It could block cool air coming in, especially in the front of your case, or it could affect the breathing, and at least your PSU needed to breathe and move air out or away from it. So cable management does matter with your system. If you are building your system, take your time when you get to this part of the build. I try to include it with all of the segments for my build videos, just so you can get an idea of my method to my madness, which normally always varies in between builds, right? Depending on the case, how many fans are being used. Is it a higher end graphics card? Is it a higher end motherboard? Am I using more than one SATA cable? A lot of different factors. Is it just an air cooler? So a lot of different factors to take into consideration there as well when it comes to planning your cable management. Another reason why that it's not a waste of your time is that it could make it difficult to service or replace certain components within your hardware if you don't properly plan out your cable configuration. Components like your RAM. Let's say you have a faulty RAM stick, or at worst, I don't want to speak on it, but if you have a faulty DIMM slot, or if you need to replace your cooler, or you need to replace your graphics card. If your cable management is just thrown in there and thrown together, this could not only lead you to damaging other components, which would lead you to need to make more upgrades on top of what you're already trying to troubleshoot, or to, add to the parts you're already supplementing. It could lead to, uh, you know, builder's error, where you damage other areas of your system. Don't do, it goes without saying that it's you're doing your system poor justice by not properly arranging your cables and taking your time with cable management. It's not a waste of time. This is bad advice I see on forums all the time. Oh, don't worry about, just push them down, or you don't have to really do cable management. Or I see systems being sold on the used market that are not only inflated, but on top of that, you're dealing with that spaghetti mess, or that cable mess of a jungle, the jungle confetti, if you will. And it's just cables just thrown in. You could tell there was no thought process put into the cables, into the cable management, to the cable configuration. Okay, this doesn't do your system any justice at all in terms of both performance and making sure your system doesn't have any obstructions. Doesn't make it hard to resell. It doesn't look good if your system is a piping hot mess and the cables are everywhere. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. But that's a waste of time. Cloud Zay, well, I tell you what, to each their own. And if you want to donate, go for it. But we're a family-friendly environment around here, so just do be mindful of that. But if you want to donate, I'll gladly take your super chats. Super chats and super stickers go a long way. Teresa said, but sir, my case is cheap. Is there any way to manage it well if there is no space on the back to hide the wires? Well, sure, Teresa. And by cheap, how cheap are we talking? Is it like that Montec X1 case that I just built where it was $60? In that case was, let me switch back here. That case was $60. I consider that not necessarily cheap, but more budget oriented. Now, if your case is under that price, price limit, my best recommendation would be to try to bundle up any unused cables. Out of sight, out of mind is a good saying I like to apply. When I even tell myself this over and over again when I'm building. Out of sight, out of mind. If you're dealing with a case that doesn't have a lot of space in its rear, or in the lower basement, or in the back, when it comes to like your 8-pin CPU cable and your 24-pin CPU cable, your 4-pin or 6-pin or 8-pin GPU cable, those are going to be the bulk of your cables you're going to have to deal with. Those should extend and stretch far enough to not necessarily leave a bundled mess at the bottom. But if your power supply unit is non-modular, so it has supplemental Molex cables or 2 or more SATA cables, and you're not going to use the Molex cables, and you want to use, say, that one SATA cable, try to bundle and wrap any unused cables. Just bundle them together. And zip ties. Zip ties are your friends. Remember we talked about having zip ties and in a previous live stream. Zip ties are your friend. And I use zip ties like they are going out of style. I will use a lot. I will use as many as needed to make sure the system looks clean as possible in the rear of the case, or in the bottom of the case. So that would be my recommendation to you. Most importantly, if you can, go with at least, if anything, a semi-modular power supply. Go with a semi-modular power supply if your budget calls for it. If not, then yeah, you may end up having to hide most of your cables down in the bottom of the case, even if it is a cheap case or a case that doesn't have a lot of space in the back. Cloud says, start making your thumbnails like crazy so people would want to click on it. All your thumbnails are not as good, but your videos are amazing. Well, hey, all feedback is good feedback, and I can take the good with the bad. I can take constructive and destructive criticism, and I do appreciate it. And do know that creating thumbnails is an ongoing science, and it's just something you have to continue trying to master. It's just as YouTube as a platform continues to evolve, so does your skills as a creator. But Cloud, if you create content, I would love to see how your thumbnails look. So hit me up on Twitter if you create content. We'd love to see your thumbnails as well, fam. But yes, I appreciate it. Thank you for the positive and negative feedback. But I'm glad you like the videos. But we were talking about cable management and how it's a waste of your time. That's bad PC advice. Avoid that at all times or whenever possible. Okay. Cluttered cables, yes, can impede or obstruct airflow. It can make it difficult to service, sell, or even, do a side grade and upgrade your components. And overall, it just doesn't do your system any justice, especially if it's in higher end system. But even if it's not a higher end system, as Teresa pointed out, it's a Teresa used the terminology cheap, but we like to use a slightly better word. We like to say it's budget oriented, but even if it's a budget oriented case and you don't have a lot of space, zip ties are your friend. Out of sight, out of mind, and wherever possible, fasten to your case. I try to keep the cables vertical as much as possible just because air wants to move sideways. So hope that answered your question. Teresa Klaus says, yep, no problem. So that was the third advice you should avoid, bad PC advice you should avoid. Segueing over into the last one, which I thought was adequate because you hear this so much, and that's spend big or go home. Most importantly, you have to spend X amount of money. I'm not going to use a fixed variable because it changes from, oh, you got to spend at least $2,000 to have a good gaming PC. Oh, you got to spend at least $1,400 to have a good gaming PC. Or you have to spend X amount of money on a particular component. You need 32 gigabytes of RAM. You need an i7. You got to spend big or go home. You need a big budget to have a good PC experience. And that's just not necessarily true. I built this channel on the concept and idea that it doesn't matter your status, background, where you come from, how you were raised. I grew up, not having much. I grew up poor, grew up in the city, and couldn't afford to have a computer until I was much older and down the road. But you don't have to spend big or go home. You just don't. You could very much have a good PC experience on a modest budget. Cloud Zay, hey, thanks for the super chat. Cloud says, keep up the grind, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, Cloud. I appreciate the super chat. Thanks for the super chat. Now you got a super rap. Hey, thanks for the super chat. Now you got a super rap. Hey, I promise that's going to be better, y'all, but it's going to be somewhere along the lines as we get the show pushing up. But I do want to do something special for all super chats and super stickers because I'm super appreciative of the support. And if you're not following me on Twitter, Cloud, make sure you follow me over on Twitter because at the end of the show, I bounce over there and give a super thanks to all of the super donations during the live stream. So that's Cloud and Mad Meech who dropped some supers on us today. So appreciate that. Cloud for the super chat, and of course again for the feedback, most importantly, because you can't grow if you don't know. Absolutely. So but we were in the fourth, I believe, or fifth segment, and that is you have to spend big or go home. GPU tech demic aside, we were starting to see a period where Intel and AMD, they both offered DIY chips for different levels and different types of users or enthusiasts. Now you could build a PC that 2x console performance and I say 2x console performance because when you hear the question, well, how, what's a good PC experience? Or I want a PC experience better than a console. And I say that should be in terms of FPS output, you should at least target a system that 2x's the performance output of a console. PS5 and Xbox Series SX still very much hard to find. Not only just at MSRP, but they're even slightly starting to become harder to find. But I do think that's going to change significantly as we turn into the holiday season, at least here in the States, and we move closer to that November to December spending period. And that's largely because we haven't had a large stock drop on either of those three consoles here in a while now. And if there's ever a greater time to do it, when buyers are looking to spend, that holiday season is that prime opportunity and window to do so. But you could build with a $500 to $700 price range. Tecdemic aside, the Tecdemic really makes things complicated. It really does. But even with a modest flexible budget, $500 to $700, your biggest benefits. And I say $500 to $700 again. That's pre-Tecdemic like levels. We use the example of the $1,000 build because I strongly recommend that if you're going to build a system today's standards right here in 2021, that's saying not waiting 6 7 months from now. If you're going to build a system right here in 2021, you're going to need at least $450 to $500 set aside for a dedicated video card. And even then, you're limited in your choice. That doesn't mean you can go out and say, oh, I can get an RTX 3070. No. Okay, you are likely going to be in a previous generation class. But you know what? I will add this into this segment really fast here before I tell you the benefits, or some of the biggest benefits, and making that leap and 2x in console performance. As a matter of fact, I just drop it on you now because to me, in my opinion, Lab's opinion, I strongly feel some of the biggest benefits to spending that investment in a machine in your gaming PC. Uncapped, some of the biggest benefits you get: uncapped frame rates, right? Uncapped frame rates, dynamic graphic settings, mods, scalable performance, a fully customizable larger box, if you will, vertical box, or maybe it's a horizontal box, uh, that's fully customizable, performance that's scalable, uncapped frame rates in your games, high fidelity dynamic graphics is what I like to call it, because if you want ultra setting textures, go for it. If you want medium grass textures because you're playing an open world game and you're more so focused on the models and the car, maybe you want more detail in the models in your cars, like GTA 5 for example, and not so much in the environments, you have that scalability over in with your graphic settings. So dynamic graphic settings, this is what makes PC gaming worth it. Having those options. Those are the biggest benefits to making that initial investment to getting that performance, that 2x's console performance. And I say 2x, that's with the $500 to $700 budget. You may be looking at an AMD APU or Intel integrated graphics, which I wouldn't recommend for most users in most situations. I still would recommend that you either save up and be prepared to add to your initial investment that $450 to $500 budget threshold for a dedicated video card, for a competent dedicated video card. You're somewhere along the lines of a 1660 all the way up to a 1660, between a 1660, 1660 Ti and 1660 Super. You will be somewhere along those lines. Anything in excess of that, for example, RTX 2060s, still selling for over $500 600. That makes some really tough buys when they're still looking at a 50% MSRP. But the 1660 Super and 1660 Ti as well too, it's not 50%, but it's still somewhere along the line in the high 30s to mid 40s in terms of how much more they're being marked up. Those graphics cards have MSRPs of what, $279 and $329 respectively, but it's going to cost you between $450 and $500 to pick one up. So yeah, still very much being inflated. And at that price point, you're still very much super limited. Now, you could very much add to your budget, say, you know what? Nope, I want ray tracing features, or I want AMD's latest and greatest. I'm willing to add and invest more. That's certainly an option. Okay, that is up to you to make that choice as to what graphics card you want to be in terms of class, at a higher price point like given right now. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, fam. I'm not here to tell you to do with your money. I'm here to help you make a better informed decision with your money. So if that is invested in a higher end graphics card because you want to pay that premium, then go for it. Which one will suit your needs now and in the future? But before I go on, I wanted to say that before I switch here, we had talked about in a few live streams that depending on how soon you're willing and ready to make that jump and you're able to make that jump, it could benefit you, right? It could benefit you by skipping over this generation. Yeah. Remember I talked about 11 months after we got the 20 series super or the 20 series lineup of graphics cards, the Super Series was announced. We got the RTX 2080 Super. Then the 2070 Super came. Then the 2060 Super. You get the idea. The RTX 30 series is coming up on being 11 months old right now. So chasing a 30 series graphics card, for once, it could benefit you to not do that, to skip over this generation. See if we're going to get an RTX 30 series Super, or if Nvidia is just going to, throw the 40 series on us. We have to see, right? We just have to very much wait and see. But skipping over this generation could prove fruitful for you in the long run. Okay, just something to think about. Just something to think about. But spend big or go home? No, fam, you don't have to. Okay, there's been growth in affordable 1080p solutions in terms of monitors and entry level 1080p monitors and cards. I will have to drop it because graphics card like the 6600 XT, although still in a weird place in terms of pricing, a little easier to find, but still very much in an awkward place of its price to performance ratio. But there's been growth in affordable 1080p cards that offer you, be able to run your games at a high fidelity, high graphic fidelity with six or more amounts of VRAM, or entry level 1440p cards. Still very much hard to find, but this has opened up the wave that you don't need to spend an X amount of money. X being that unknown variable. X being somebody telling you, oh man, you want to build a gaming PC? Nah, you're going to need to spend at least $1,300 right now. To have a good PC, you need to spend at least $1,500 right now. Well, if you spend $1,500 on a gaming PC, even prior to the tech-demic, it should be a good experience, right? Y'all know my rule of thumb. I say if it costs more, it should perform better. Where's the logic in that? So they could also say, hey, you need to spend at least $900 on a graphics card right now. Oh, that may be a little true. But you can also half that and get just as a capable graphics card. Even on the used market, you all know the used market still has a soft place in my heart. That's where a lot of the content was focused on, was helping to find and carve out that used price to performance that was ever abundant on the used market prior to the tech-demic, and the GPU tech-demic caught up to it right around November, December of 2020. The used market, or I guess in this case, prices went up. It went from, fair market value for most graphics cards to just 30-40% markup on even previous generation graphics cards, to where we saw 980 Ti selling for, and you still kind of do, we saw 980 Ti selling for $350-$400, RX 580 used RX 580s selling for about $400 to $500, somewhere between there. That's insane, because just a year ago you could pick up a used RX 580 for about $220, maybe even less, given that the 1650 Super had an MSRP of $169 when I reviewed it. But now even a 1650 Super is going to cost you over $350. So regardless of the GPU class you want to be in, and the 1650 Super being a very capable 1080p card, it's a little dated, but I did a review with the 1650 Super. You can still very much see how it fared up against some of even today's still modern and demanding games. But you need at least a budget of at least $450 for a graphics card that's going to get it done. Not 8, not 9. You don't need to buy an i7, drop over $400 on a CPU. You don't even need an AIO with your system. You don't need to spend an X amount of money. Key part to that phrase is to have a good PC experience. That's the crucial part to that adage, to that verbiage right there, is to have a good PC experience. You don't need to insert any variable that you've heard. Stick to your budget, stick to your needs, stick to what it is you want to get out of your system. That is what's going to make the biggest determination on how much money you have to spend. Again, you don't have to spend a certain amount of money on your PC. to have a great one, but you will need to spend a little bit more to have a good one. One with a dedicated video card. One that you can at least run your games at a high setting like graphic fidelity. 40 to 50 FPS on average or more. Again, you don't have to spend a lot to have a great PC, but you will have to spend a little more to have a good one. Okay? And that's largely in part due to the nature of the graphics card still being marked up and still very much in short supply and high demand. That is what it falls. That is why we are in the situation that we find ourselves now as DIY enthusiasts of all levels and backgrounds. But when it comes to bad PC advice, know that you do not have to spend big or go home. There is no set amount of money you necessarily have to spend to have a great PC experience. But right now in 2021, yes, you will have to spend a little more to have a good one. Okay? And that's with at least adding a dedicated video card in that price range that I just mentioned. $400 to $500, and that right now 16 series for the win. I would switch over here to eBay really fast and just demonstrate that they're selling for that, which I will really fast here. I promise y'all before we jump into the final thoughts. But let's look up, and we do this every live stream. We check in on the prices of the 1660 series lineup of graphics cards. Let's start with the 1660 Super. 6-8-bit, $405, which would likely break this 500 threshold that we see here at 535. Looking for non-bid ones, 650. Ridiculous. Still very much high. The 1660 Super still unattainable even in that budget. Got to drop it down. Lose out a little bit of performance. Standard 1660 Ti. Push you in a better flexible price category. 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Very much a capable graphics card. Did a video on it around, I believe, January or December, late January, late December, early January. Somewhere along the lines between there. Still very much a capable graphics card. But on the used market, right now, fair market value for a 1660 Ti, $435, $449. We're still very much in between that $400 to $500 price range that I mentioned earlier. Okay. That's why I said if you want to get a dedicated card, and even new ones are creeping up, $609, which I'm always wary of sellers with stock photos of graphics cards. I'm like, you don't have any original photos of the product. First red flag. But $700, incredibly high, but that's from Japan, which is interesting. But still very much, as you can see, 16 series lineup of graphics cards. This looks like this was this looks like that's if you guys familiar with Hardware Unbox, fellow Aussies, or not fellow Aussies, but Aussies down under. This looks like their set. Interesting. Yeah, because there goes oh man. Yep, this is from Hardware Unbox. And I know because long before I had aspirations to becoming a content creator, I followed their content a great deal, and I watched them build this Threadripper system right here. Okay, I've watched them build that video. I watched them line up, do the tubes, do the water cooling tubes. This is definitely Hardware Unbox's set photos, so that's interesting. Curious, is it Hardware Unbox? Not coming from Texas, but yeah. Anyway, just certain things like that to look out for. But that's curious to catch wind of that. I knew this background looked familiar, and look at that. Look right there, y'all. What does that say? Hardware Unboxed. Ding, ding, ding. Found it. Found it. So yeah, I figured it looked familiar. It says it right there, Hardware Box. No, I didn't see it. It's got a little bokeh going on back there, so it's a little hard to identify. But yeah, just signs like that you got to be wary of. Does the seller really have the card? I would hit him up and say, hey, can you send me actual photos, because I noticed this is Hardware Unbox's picture. What are you doing? But yeah. All right, let's jump over to the final scenes. Enough calling out shady looking eBay listings. So very much still, you are in a price range of $400 to $500 for a capable graphics card, and that's likely 1650 Super, 1660, or 1660 Ti. Still very much in short supply and high demand. Teresa says, honestly, I don't have a good experience with the used video card. From the time I started using the computer until now, I have died. Oh, I have had 2 cards that have died on me. HD 7770 and and R9 290. Ouch. Yeah, you know, that's just the luck of the draw, I guess, Teresa. But I tell you what, share, give us a little bit more context. Were these graphics cards bought off of eBay, like OfferUp or Craigslist or the Facebook Marketplace? Um, you know, where did you pick the cards up? That definitely sucks, and that's the duality behind buying used graphics cards. Clevon, Clevon, it's good to see you again, fam. Oh, my chat didn't update. It's good to see you, Clevon. Welcome to the show. That's weird. My chat didn't update. But Clevon, welcome to the show. It's good to see you, fam. Clevon says, "Hey, what's up?" I think that's "Hey, what's up." But again, Teresa, that's part of the duality behind buying used components. Um, I definitely resonate with you. Let me start with the R9 290 as a graphics card that's more than 7 years old, which could have been near or close to its life expectancy ending, because all hardware has a certain level of mileage that you can get out of them before they just essentially fail. Um, were there any signs that the graphics cards were beginning to fail? Like, were you seeing any GPU artifacting? Were you getting like random black screens, or was your screen popping in and out? Was your FPS dipping really low? Were your temperatures really high? I bought that R9 390. That video a lot of you have seen. If you haven't yet, it's an oldie but definite goodie. You can find it down in the description box below. But the title is the best budget 1080p best used 1080p graphics card, something along the lines there. I bought that R9 390 for about 75 bucks, I believe, over on eBay, and there were no signs or notes with the graphics card that it was having the issue that I noticed as soon as I got it, and that was the graphics card would spike up to 90 degrees C the moment I would just, fire up, say, Unigen Heaven. Again, what you see in that video is exactly how it all played out. I fired the graphics card up just to test it, but I'm like, whoa, hey, that's not supposed to happen. Let's get to the root of it. Let's find out what the problem is. But essentially, I felt slightly slighted, if that makes sense. But because the seller didn't disclose that the graphics card would have needed to have its thermal paste replaced. And so that's what I did. I had to replace the thermal paste. But if I was a user who was unable to do that, and I just maybe saw that, hey, that could be a good deal, right? $75 for a graphics card that's working. I should jump on that, right? Capable of playing 1080p, low setting, medium settings, depending on the game. I'm gonna get that graphics card, and you get it, and you find out like, holy cow, it's running 90 degrees C, and I haven't even done anything yet. And I said, well, let's replace the thermal paste. Let's make this a story. Let's extend the story and find out how we could make this graphics card operational. But buying used on the used market, I say when you're buying older graphics cards like the 7770 or the R9 290 or 270, 280 graphics cards like that, expect maybe shorter life expectancies from those graphics cards. Whatever value is left, chances are it may not hold you over for long. So look at them as piecemeal upgrades, right? Like you know what, this is bullet on the band-aid wound. Graphics card price is still a hot mess. No, I don't have, $800, $900, $700, $600 to invest in a card. I kind of want to keep it under the $100 and $200 range, but that's not something I also don't recommend you do. Like spend $200 at a time on a used graphics card. It's going to add up. But if you can, try to find yourself in slightly newer generations, right? Like 300 series, the 390, or even the 470 or 460 on AMD side, or a GTX 770 or a 970, somewhere along the lines there, where there could be a slightly more performance or value left in that graphics card before it reaches the end of its life cycle. Teresa says, I buy them from people near where I live. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that with us. R9 290 has, but signs like every once in a while it blacks out the screen for a few seconds and then comes back. But the HD 770 does not. Okay. So yeah, there could be something wonky going on there with the R9 290, and I'm sure if you've part of my ignorance and assuming here, but making sure you've reinstalled the drivers, or making sure that take it to the next level and see if there's maybe a VBIOS that needs to be updated for it. You never know. But it could also be that the R9 290 is reaching the end of its life expectancy. It's interesting you said the HD 770 does not. Did you pick those up recently, Teresa? Also, do let us know. Did you pick those up recently? And if so, how much were you able to snag them for? Do let us know. But that can be that can be a frustrating experience. Like you said, I don't have much luck with buying used video cards on the used market. That sentiment has actually been shared with other members in this community as well, where they have, they've lucked out. So far, I got to knock on some wood here. So far, I haven't ran into any problems outside of when I bought the R9 390 off of eBay, and I really don't buy locally as much because in my area there's just not a lot of people looking to sell hardware. I have to go to like larger metropolitan areas. I'm kind of out in the boonies, if you will, so I have to go to larger metropolitan areas to find, to find sellers looking to sell video cards. This is why I normally strike out with trying to buy a used video card. Having them shipped to me is what my strategy is, because normally I'd have to go about an hour out to try to, jump on good deals, and normally a lot because it's just so frequent and common. The seller doesn't want to ship to me. They prefer to meet in person. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not driving out for an hour unless it's a graphics card that I absolutely positively need, or a graphics card that I absolutely positively need and should do a video on, or that one I could flip over on our online store. So, but yeah, Teresa, let us know, when did you pick up your R9 290 and 7770? As we switch back over here and wrap up with, no, you don't need to spend big or go home. Avoid that bad PC advice. You don't need to, have spend a certain amount of money to have a good PC experience. Right now, you need to spend a little more, or you don't need to spend a lot to have a great PC experience, but you will need to spend a little more to have a good one, right? Like in Teresa's case, you may need to spend a little more to have a proper dedicated video card. Even if it's on the used market, you still very much need to come into the fold with at least $200 to $300 for a capable graphics card over on the used market. But do know there are risks involved, and you should shop accordingly. Look for any signs and ask plenty of questions, right? Say, hey, did this art, did you experience any problems? I know the R9 290, it's an older graphics card. I'm glad it still works, but were there any signs that you noticed something might have been wrong, or is there anything I should look out for? Have you replaced the thermal plates? Were the ambient temperatures a little hotter than normal, where a lot of dust? Is this GPU, does it have a lot of dust inside? All of those things can be component killers. And if there's dust visible on the outside, you best believe there's dust built up along the PCB and near the GPU socket and the VRAM. So dust is definitely a component killer along with heat. So ask plenty of questions, but no, you don't need to spend big or go home. You just need to spend a little bit more to have a good PC experience. You don't need to spend a lot to have a great one, y'all. Now let's segue over into our final thoughts, because when you start this process, when you start your journey to wanting to get into PC gaming, read before you think before you act, and then know before you do. If you're building for the first time, research, and apply the facts before configuring your system. We were helping Brother Patrick, which I'm not sure, we had a lot of folks who had to leave, but I'm not sure if Brother Patrick is still with us. But like we shared that same bit of information with Brother Patrick, where we told him to research your system, research your components especially before buying them. Use tools like PC Part Picker. Remember the 6 P's of the Inside the Lab gaming community, right? Share them with your friends. Share them in your community. And that's proper planning will leave you with a poor performing PC. If you don't research your needs based around the games and activities you want to involve yourself in or get involved in with your PC, if you don't base your needs off of those things, then you could be left with an underperforming PC or a system that you overspent, and you could have put proper thought into other components, right? Let's say you went with a 500 gigabyte SSD when you could have saved money on your power supply unit and your motherboard, and you could have put that money towards a 1 terabyte NVMe M.2. The difference, the difference would be day and night. WASD Moves comes with the super chat. Hey, the $5 super chat. Cliff, it's good to see you, brother. WASD Move says, hey, you guys rock. No, you guys and gals rock at a larger. You guys rock in the larger grand scheme of things. You guys and gals, the community. But Cliff, I got my little super chat. So thanks for the super chat. Now I got a super rap. Okay, it's gonna be so much better than that, I promise. But thank you for the $5 super chat, Cliff. I super appreciate you. Cliff, it's good to see you. We were just getting caught up, and we were wrapping into the final thoughts here of the live show. We came in, we were discussing some bad PC advice one should avoid. Cliff is a super experienced PC builder here in our community, ripe with knowledge. Pretty sure Cliff is loaded with tons of PC advice. Cliff, do feel free to share them. And at any time as we round out here in the final thoughts, we still got a couple minutes to go, brother Cliff. So it's always good to see you. Good to see a lot of our regular viewers who came in. I had the opportunity to very much rap with you all because I felt bad, as I always do, by rescheduling the live stream due to unforeseen circumstances. But I'm glad that I was able to jump back into it and get caught up here with the community. Going live, still one of my favorite aspects of being a content creator here on YouTube. And that's engaging with the community, getting supers from super fans and super lab fam like Cliff, like they're just now. Thanks again for the super chat, Cliff. And you know what we talked about earlier in the at the top of the show, YouTube channel memberships are on schedule before the end of the month. I've already submitted the perks to YouTube, so everything's all set up. Custom emojis for live streams and chat live streams and the comment section, and of course custom badges as well, and exclusive content that's going to be right here on YouTube that's taking the content to the next level. So do keep a lookout for that, Cliff, and anybody else that's watching and you're interested in supporting the channel on a reoccurring basis as well. Memberships, big part of the structure here, a big part of the strategy here, I'm sorry, to being able to make the transition to a full-time content creator on this platform, among others. But again, prior proper planning prevents a poor performing PC. It needs to be on a shirt. That's a lot. But let me say it again for the homies in the back. Prior proper planning prevents a poor performing PC. Research your system before making any configurations. Maper joking ROFL. It's good to see you, fam. Where you been? We hadn't seen you in a while. It's good to see you, Maple Joker. Maple says, what do you think about pirating games? Well, I'm not the internet police, and I'm not here to tell you if you should or you shouldn't pirate video games. I will say look at it from the perspective of the developer. If pirating the game affects their ability to profit from the game, then that's all you're doing, is you're just preventing the developer from profiting from the game at the expense that, say, you're unable to afford the game. Is it supporting the developer? It's debatable. That's arguable. If you are unable to, then you gotta make it do what it do, right? But I'm not here to tell you if it's right or wrong, because I have kids, and last I checked, I think they're not all on the live stream. So I'm not here to be anyone's parent and tell you, oh, what's right or wrong, and bring out the belt. No, I don't pirate games, me personally, but that's me personally. That doesn't mean one should or one shouldn't. That's totally up to it's a judgment call you should make. Now, I will admit, when I was younger, we did. We did. I couldn't really afford games, so any way I could get a crack key, and I was trying, just because I simply wanted to enjoy the game to any greater extent. I just wanted to play the game, even if I couldn't afford to play it. But I mean, I don't don't only say normally. I don't pirate games. I just don't do it. But hey, if you do, that's your groove. You gotta do what you gotta do. Cliff says, I'm so stuffed. Wife and I just ate an awesome Korean ramen dinner. I run an errands. It was so tasty. Yikes. Yes, that sounds good. I know I'm about due for dinner here myself as we wrap up in final thoughts. Clevin says, teach me how to overclock an Intel GPU HD 620. Overclock an Intel overclocking any integrated CPU. That's a CPU with integrated graphics. In this case, Intel HD, which off the top of my head, I'm not sure. 620 is what, seventh generation integrated graphics? I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Somebody, please welcome me if I'm incorrect. But I do believe that's seventh generation integrated graphics. Uh, I don't really see the upside and the benefit to upgrading integrated graphics, in my honest opinion. To be honest, Clevon, but that's something I can maybe look into down the road. Again, I do have a video coming up with an integrated CPU. Spoiler alert, it's not an Intel integrated CPU. Um, they are essentially as good as they are essentially as good as they're going to get or be out of the box. Plain and simple. But all awesome stuff though. Hey, listen, fam, I appreciate everybody adding to the conversation here. Keep them coming as we round out the live stream here with the final thoughts. But I was dropping in at the 6 P's or 7 P's or 8 P's. What is it? 8? I believe it's 8. I'm horrible with math. No, it's 7. Told y'all I was horrible with math. Proper prior planning prevents a poor performing PC. It's the 7 P's of PC gaming. Okay, proper planning prevents a poor performing PC. If you're troubleshooting or servicing your PC, fully diagnose and research the issue before determining the solution, because that solution most likely comes with an expense or comes with a cost. This could also save you time, not just money, but this could also save you time by avoiding any unnecessary purchases. That's time and money. Maybe some instances you may not be able to get your money back, or you may have to pay some sort of restocking fee, right? Or if you're trying to sell it back to an eBay, maybe they may charge you just to take it back. Maybe you could end up being stuck with it. This could help you avoid any unnecessary purchases. This could also save you time because you won't have to wait for your mail carrier. You won't have to wait to say sending the other part back and getting the new one in. No. Make sure that if you're servicing your system, make sure that you are correctly identifying or diagnosing the problem before deducing a solution. Because in terms of PC hardware, that's going to come at your expense. You're going to have to replace that component. Hey, especially if it's outside of your warranty or if it's something you've done. Like if it was build error or user error. Maple says, is there any other way to tip outside of YouTube? I don't want to give Google more of my info. I totally understand Maple Joker role, and I do have an Inside the Lab Cash App. And I told myself I wasn't going to share the Cash App until we were monetized because, well, I'll use Maple for example. Not everybody wants to connect or have their account with Google, but I will drop my Cash App, and that's Inside the Lab. I just checked because, hey, any amount supports the mission and supports the hustle. Just helps fund the dream and of course keep the mission going. But yeah, sorry, I just had to check to make sure. But that's my Cash App, Maple. If you want to support me as a creator monetarily, then you can drop me a Cash App. All is welcome. I also give shout outs. Anybody who donates to the Cash App will get a custom video response on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, you're definitely going to follow me out so I can tag you in that. But any Cash Apps that come over to their friends and fam, if you send me a custom message, I will read it back in the video. So long as it's in SFW. I see you. Hey, I see you, Han. I'm gonna get to you in a second. Han says, "Hey, fam, I'm in the house, but Maple Joker, if so long as if and anybody else who wants to donate on the Cash App, so long as it's an SFW and it's appropriate, because I do like to try to keep the community at large family friendly. That doesn't mean kids are here, but just just kind of keeping it advertiser friendly. But yeah, just check out the Cash App. If you send me a Cash App, I don't care if it's, I think what the minimum, $1. I don't care what it is, fam. I appreciate every little single cent. So I will let 100,000 nickels pile up. I don't know what that is in math, because again, hashtag math. But that's my Cash App. Anybody who wanted to donate outside of super chats, but again, super chats not a requirement, but certainly appreciative of all super chats. We've had a couple supers come today, and I'm definitely going to be shouting you friends and fam out over on Twitter. Han says hi. Han Slow-Mo is in the house. Man, we love if we can catch our brother from the other side of the globe, and that is brother Han. That's Mike over there is in the house. It's good to see you, Han. Han says, yeah, happy to join. Absolutely, Han. We got channel memberships are coming. Channel memberships are currently the perks. Let me switch back here before I finally round out with final thoughts. But channel memberships, friends and fam, they are coming. Keep a lookout for that notification. First and foremost, email subscribers will get the sign up to get the join button first, or to get the link first. As soon as the perks are approved, the channel memberships here on YouTube will go live first. Patreon, which is going to be super exclusive content, not even here on YouTube. It's totally separate from the memberships here. They are well designed and super affordable for different budgets of all different sizes. Thank you, Cliff. 100 nickels is $5 grand. So yeah, I mean, if I saved up 100 nickels in a year, that's $5 grand a year. I would be totally happy with that, totally okay with it. So every little bit adds up, and super appreciative of all your financial donations. But yes, channel memberships are coming, and yes, I do have a PayPal as well, Maple Joker, and that is also inside the lab as well, at inside the lab show at gmail.com. That is my PayPal email address, and inside the lab is my account name. I think it is in there. I will start to drop these links in the description box, I promise, so that we have that all squared up. But yeah, channel memberships are coming to support me or here on the platform, and to support me off platform. We're going to have super exclusive content, and the Patreon, first of all, the name of the Patreon is going to be called Inside the Lab Dark. That's right. Inside the Lab Dark. Y'all have had the opportunity to hear it first and foremost. Inside the Lab Dark is going to be our Patreon, and as the name implies, you'll have access. I'm just going to drop this little bit of information now, but there's going to be perks where you'll have access to the Discord dark room, right? And now what's said in the dark, what's seen in the dark, and what's heard in the dark is going to stay in the dark. While of course all content will still very much need to adhere to the Converse guidelines, and still very much need to remain family friendly. So none of that, none of that. I'm not even going to mention it here because I shouldn't have to. If you down with that, you in the wrong place, fam. But for the most part, that's just taking the conversation to a much darker level, if you know what I mean. So the Inside the Lab Patreon Dark is going to be insane. And Cliff came with. Thanks for the super sticker, Cliff. What this? What kind of face is that? It says the mad sticker. Wow. Thanks for the super sticker. I definitely appreciate it. Again, the supers definitely go a long way. And I can't wait for the channel memberships to go live, because I have custom emojis that you'll be able to use here in the live stream and in the chat, right? So we're gonna have custom emojis, and we're gonna need, hey, when the link go live, sign up, because the more people we have sign up, the more emojis I can add. I was only able to add, I believe, 4 or 5. What I tell you, Mrs. Mod, somewhere like 4 or 5 emojis right now that I have added to those that you could use, super custom. But when those go live, make sure you sign up for channel memberships if you are able to, and you're able to, and you are willing to. It's going to be fun. But yeah, Cliff says, can you get custom stickers? I thought you could, and I was hoping you could, but you cannot get custom stickers. I was only able to upload custom emojis and GIFs, which the GIFs were a little weird. I couldn't get them to animate, but I was only able to upload custom emojis. So Yeah, we got some lab fam emojis. I got some what fail face emojis. Oh, it's gonna be a great time. But I want to add more. So we want to get that. We want to get that inside the lab channel membership community going. I also got to assign us a proper name, but it's like lab fam exclusive is what it essentially is. It's like the lab fam exclusive party over there, and there will be a dedicated stream once YouTube approves the channel memberships. Clevon says, sending out love from Trinidad. Yes, yes, yes. That's what's up, man. We love our Trinidadian friends and fam. Shout out to our global friends and fam. I love the opportunity of just talking and just having the opportunity to help and discuss this hobby that we all love and enjoy. The value promise for this channel, for this community and this audience is I want to help you save time and money so that you can spend more of both on doing the things that you love. That's it, fam. Clevon, you're in the right place. So thanks for sending love out from Trinity, love from us over here on the United States, fam. And Clevon, I do stream games. So that's a great question. For those of you who don't know, I do stream games. Right now, it's part of the pop-up live stream series, which I probably will do one more pop-up live stream. But Clevon, if you want to watch them in their original state, there is a live stream special playlist that you can find over on the homepage or my playlist lists, if you will, or down in the description box below. And you can check out those games. Right now, I'm playing Alien Isolation. So right now, I've been streaming Alien Isolation. And I do want to say that with channel memberships, they'll, I can't say too much. I got to save it for that live stream. But I do stream games, Clevon, and I have some other games that once we finish Alien Isolation, because I really think that I am near the end. And every time I say that, there's like 3 or 4 more hours left of the game. So I don't know. But I do stream games. We've been playing Alien Isolation. It's been fun times. I love streaming, and I love live streaming. I love creating live content. But oh man, do I love also playing video games. So when I'm able to do both, and I love this community, I love this audience. Cats like Han Slow-Mo, Sparta Rules, and Cliff, WASD Moves, Tricion that was here, Tricion that was with us here earlier, and Your Highness, Last Rites, so many different people, right? Bad Habit, I know Bad Habit's not here, but Bad Habit too. A lot of regulars here on the show. I love this audience, and I love going live. Cliff with the man, Cliff is like super on point tonight, man. Cliff says, "Shut my dog, Shiba dog shaking his body from left to right." You gotta love it, man. Thanks for the super again, fam, man. We set an all new precedence, a record for the supers on tonight's live show, man. I definitely gotta appreciate it. I love it. Sorry if that was unpleasant on the mic. Oh man, Maple, was that unsettling? Maple, is the dancer Shiva? It's like it's terrifying, but interestingly enough, interesting at the same time. I don't know if that was wow, but thanks for the super, Cliff, man. I super appreciate your fam. Oh gosh, yeah, y'all gonna make it. Y'all gonna have me keep the live stream going. We had cats like Han Slow-Mo show up, and Cliff is dropping some supers on us, man. I appreciate it again. Super chats and super stickers are definitely not a requirement to being an awesome Lab Fam viewer here in this community, but it is super, 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 super appreciated and welcome, as it's going to help fund the mission. I got a lot of I'm investing in new gear, new equipment for season 2 of the weekly live experience, because suffice it to say, ironically, today is the anniversary of the live experience of the live show. Technically, before rescheduling last week's live show, today would have been the last live of the season. So we're probably going to do one more pop-up live stream without a doubt. So keep a lookout for that coming up this week. If you want to catch me screaming at the end of Alien Isolation, or if we all want to catch that ending together, because a lot of you have played that game with me here over the last couple months. So keep a lookout for that. But hey, friends and fam, well, on top of the super thanks, let me just take a minute out right now to give a super thank you to everybody who's taken place and taken a part of the show that's helped and assisted with growing this live show into what it is today. We didn't have a name for it when we started last August. August 19th was the first live stream I ever did here on YouTube. And we had so many different viewers, so many different members of the community that are right here with us right now. Some of you that were even present on that live show. I know Triceon had to dip because it's late for Triceon, but Triceon was there present. I know Cliff was, just to name a few. My apologies if I can't remember everybody, but for the most part, everybody that's here now, I know I've had the opportunity. Even my guy Maple, right? Even the fan Maple in Joker, Maple Joker ROFLL. We've seen him before. We've seen them before. My apologies, but we've seen them before. But Clevon and everybody who's come on board, you guys and gals, you Lab fam, you are the reason why I am able to continue to do this. I told you all the secret to being a content creator here on YouTube is that you are nothing without the audience you are destined to serve. I am nothing as a creator without the audience that I have been destined to serve. And so long as I am able and capable of doing it, I'm going to continue to serving up the good message here that is, yes, I want to save you time and money so that you can spend both on the things that you love or the things you love doing the most. If that's being a PC enthusiast, if that's PC gaming, if that's gaming in general, then I am dedicated to creating content that's going to help you save time and money so that you can spend both on more of this hobby, more on your PC. Literally spend more time with your PC. Excuse me, save money to spend more of it on your PC. That is my goal here, and I am so grateful. I just want to take the minute out. All right, mini speech over, but I did want to take the minute out to make that special recognition because this is a celebratory moment. This is the year anniversary of this live show. Everything you see here now, not much has changed. A lot of y'all can testify to that. A lot of y'all can testify to that. Oh, my cat, Piper's making it. Let me see if Piper's going to come over and say hi. Okay, come here, Pipe. Everybody want to see you. Everybody want to see you, kitty. All right, all right. He said, hey, happy live stream anniversary, Lab and Lab fam. Nope, he's annoyed. But we're coming up on, this is a precedent, y'all. Okay? This live show hasn't changed much. Y'all know that. Y'all, the chat's been in the same, the chat's been in the same place. It's been the same scroll ticker down at the bottom. The social media icons have remained the same. Just subscribe here on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitters. And Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Maple says, your videos have helped me. I appreciate hearing that, Maple. Thank you. Thank you. It makes the hours of editing and planning, because I do like to take my time. I take my sweet time editing. I would love to get, I say I would love to, but I need to make a conscionable effort to get back to weekly uploads in between mixing in the live content. I have a few dedicated members that says, hey, we love your VODs. We want to see more of your VODs because I can't make the streams. But I take my sweet time editing. But I need to take even more time making sure that the value remains clear, concise, and effective. Most importantly, that advice is actionable advice that you can take. But Maple, I super appreciate that feedback. It's much like Last Rights, who said Last Rights, another regular community. I'm hoping Last Rights would sign on to be a channel member, because I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's more so important for for those who are. And maybe I should make it a VOD so it's more widely accessible. Or maybe we'll do a live stream and a companion VOD, or a VOD and a companion live. But on one of the tiers for YouTube channel memberships is going to be an exclusive show, and you'll be able to call in the show or come up right here on the screen and talk and communicate. So if that's something you're interested in, just again, keep a lookout for that announcement when I get the clearance from YouTube and I'm able to enable channel memberships. That's the only thing we're waiting for. But I'm super looking forward to having that opportunity of doing that with y'all. Clevon says, I have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 on a 7200U. Okay, it's a mobile Intel CPU, KB Lake, KB Lake 7th generation Intel CPU, HD 620, and it's still sticking on Warzone. Painful, it's painfully, but thinking about an external graphics card, what do you think? If that is the only route you can take, say if what resolution are you gaming at 1080p, Clevon? Is that 1080p? Your laptop resolution is it 1080p? If it's 1080p, and if you haven't yet, try running the game at 720p. Try lowering the game down to 720p. Things may get a little wonky, right? It may be maybe a little blurry, but what you're trading here is quality for performance, right? Try lowering it down to 720p. I would go as low as possible, scale up from there. 720p, low settings. What kind of experience are you getting from that? Is it beyond playable, 50, 60 FPS? Try to find a balance between low medium settings, right? Maybe up your texture resolution to medium and change other environmental settings to not let your CPU take a big as a hit. But if you think an if doing that doesn't improve the situation, I don't have much familiarity with an external graphics card. I would say take that option as a last resort at all possible because I'm not sure what the market even looks like for external graphics cards. I'd imagine that even still they too are suffering from the techdemic, and if that's the case, then they are already priced beyond their value, and to just get a little bit more performance in Call of Duty Warzone may not be worth that initial investment. Clevon says external GPUs, it's worth it, or should I just do a complete laptop change? So to add to that question, I'm sorry I should have saw that before, but it could be in your best interest to continue to save up remaining mobile, if remaining mobile is your desired option. Like Cliff with WASD Moves himself, has a solid gaming laptop. It's a gaming laptop, so it has a mobile discrete video card. But if remaining mobile is your choice, then consider upgrading your laptop. Maybe with an integrated Ryzen APU or a 10th generation or 11th generation integrated Intel CPU. If you can check out the market, you could maybe pick up a used gaming PC. Very skeptical on used gaming PCs because I feel like the battery on them is completely the cells are all used up, right? But just something to consider. Something to consider. I would recommend a complete laptop change. If you want, that's something we can wrap with more Clevon. So make sure you're following me over on Twitter or Instagram. Again, that's at Inside the Lab YT. If we can get Mrs. Ma to drop that in the chat one more time for us. Make sure you follow me over at Inside the Lab at Inside the Lab YT on Instagram and Twitter. And I could help, send me some recommendations. I would try to find one that's priced within your budget. But Maple says, what's a channel member? So channel memberships is YouTube's version of subs like over on Twitch, and it's that you pay a monthly subscription for certain exclusive perks that are only exclusive here to channel memberships, which I have a lot of cool perks designed for channel members. But again, Maple, also Patreon will launch exactly 30 days after YouTube channel memberships for users who are super duper lab fans. And I mean super duper, and you want to take, and you really want to push and help support the message and my journey to becoming a full-time creator, because making sure I offer as much value as possible for the community at large is my goal with the membership program here with the brand. But channel memberships over here on YouTube, where you pay a monthly subscription through Google for exclusive perks that are only accessible to you. You get custom emojis to use here on the live chat that I've designed. You also get a special badge next to your name that's visible here in the chat and during the comment sections. Maple, if you're still here with me, hopefully it's something you're going to want to consider. But if not, totally understandable. Again, it's not worth it at all. Or I'm sorry, it's not required at all. But should you want to support me here on YouTube, channel members is a way you could support me on a monthly basis. But if not, we have Patreon that's also going to launch, that's going to offer even more exclusive content. They are designed so that the perks don't cross each other. what's going to be on Patreon. It's what's only going to be on Patreon. It's exclusive Patreon access. Here on YouTube, there's going to be exclusive perks you get right here on YouTube. But I'm going to tell you right now, Patreon is next level with it, y'all. Patreon is next level. But yeah, Cliff says, awesome. My chat's not updating. Cliff says, awesome. And also that, yeah, Cliff says that you should sell your current towards an upgrade. Totally agree. As I jumped down, you said with maybe a eGPU, you can even connect one through your wireless card with the kit. That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's something I'm gonna have to. That's something I'm gonna have to maybe read up on. But that's interesting stuff. But one thing that Cliff did mention that I would definitely recommend you do is that consider selling your current laptop that way to absorb the upgrade cost of your new laptop. Now, clearly, you would have to say find one first, like settle up on one, depending on what your budget is. Again, Clev, I would love to rap with you to help you make that, to help make an informed and conscionable decision based on your budget. Or most importantly, Clevon, join our Discord. You're going to want to join our Discord because we got folks like Cliff, and I know Han and Sparta Rules, Tricion, just to name a few. Sorry, I can't remember everybody. But just folks that are here right now, they're over there on the Discord. And Discord is the conversation going 24/7. I pop in and out of the Discord. I am going to make more time to catch comments and react to post in there. But shout out to the Discord, to our Converse fam that keeps the conversation going over on Discord. I super appreciate you all. And if I see we just had a few more people jump in, and I'll sum you up on some of the topics, but on your way in or on your way out, if you haven't yet, do be sure to hit the like button for me and subscribe if you haven't yet. Hopefully I have earned your subscription where I'm entertaining enough or educational enough to, yes, have earned your subscription. We're getting caught up here with the community, rapping, answering any final last minute questions before we sign out here and end the ride. But not too yet. Now I ain't gonna slow the ride down. Yeah, we'll keep it going just a little bit more. As again, I was adding that Cliff said that it might be worth to sell your current to put towards your upgrade. Certainly, Cliff. Once you've decided to say, hey, there's still some unused value that I could pass down to the next person, I can maybe sell it in your local market, or you could sell it online if you have the means to ship it out to someone. Even if it's 200, 300, I'm not sure what the market value is, $400, do some research on it and see what it's going for. You can maybe take that and 2 to 3 extra laptop performance where you could be in the price range of a laptop. Again, depending on your market, you could be in a price range of a laptop that comes with the discrete mobile graphics card, even if it's like a 960M or a 970M, right? Somewhere along the lines of a previous NVIDIA discrete mobile graphics card. Just something to take into consideration. That's solid. That's good PC advice. That's one thing we preach a lot here in this community, is that with any upgrade, if that's your graphics card, especially if your graphics card, but if it's your CPU cooler, if it's your motherboard, your case, your RAM, right? If it's a previous platform, if it's an older platform, AM3 Plus or X99, Haswell, maybe it's previous generation or socket, maybe third or fourth generation Intel CPU, definitely something to take into consideration. Sell your previous hardware. That way you can supplement the cost for that upgrade. Not just using Clev or Clevon's example here. We can apply that same logic to DIY components as well, right? Upgrading your graphics card. It could be a graphics card 700 series or 600 series. It could be an older graphics card. There is some value there, fam, that could possibly be extracted by another user that they could be willing to pay. Hey, maybe they only have $100 for a graphics card. Maybe you have 4 or 5 and you want to get a little bit more to kind of put you over that and say, I want to definitely I want to upgrade from a GTX 770 to maybe a 6600 XT. That's the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, as Maple says, also Maple says, I love our buy and sell friends. Maple says also, I buy, sell, and trade computers and laptops and peripherals from Reddit Hardware Swap. Haven't had any bad experience and pretty good prices. Thank you for sharing that, mate, because I've usually heard nothing but the Reddit Hardware Swap Reddit thread. And I definitely recommend one check out, Facebook groups as well. Cliff manages a Facebook group. Definitely get linked up with quality Facebook groups that buy and sell um, use hardware parts, especially one that you can trust, because in a trusted community means that you're going to get the most value for components. And if you're selling a graphics card, you can also ensure that it's going to someone in need. But definitely would recommend checking out the Reddit hardware swap thread. As Maple says, it also could be a solid option for Clevon. So definitely Clevon, if you have access to Reddit, which you just go to Reddit. I'm trying to think if you even need a Reddit account. Maybe you do, but check out Reddit hardware swap, and you might find somebody there that's looking for a laptop for general purpose usage or for 720p gaming. Again, I'm not sure if you tried running Call of Duty Warzone at 720p. It's not as sharp and extravagant as 1080p, but very much still a playable resolution, depending on some of the other graphics you're able to scale within a FPS that's playable to you, which again, remember, that's different for most of us, but I would say that should be at least 2 times the performance output of a console. And typically that's between 40 and 50 to FPS. 1080p, that's doable for me, although I haven't played a 1080p in a very long time, like objectively. So yeah, that could very much vary. For 3440 by 1440p, me playable, 80 to 90 is what my ideal is, with the graphic settings turned up as high as possible. But at this graphic setting, or at this resolution, at this ultra wide or quad ultra Q Q U, oh my gosh, y'all, it's because I haven't had dinner. UWQHD, ultra wide quad HD. Yikes, yowzers. It's because I'm still fired up from all the supers today. But at this 21 by 9 aspect ratio, no. Minimum, like 50, 60. And it really depends on the game. But between the 2080 Ti, the options to go with, it really isn't a game I haven't found that I can run at a respectable FPS on this system. But all right, all good stuff. All good stuff. If you have more to share, definitely keep the conversation going, because we were still wrapping up in the final thoughts, believe it or not. But again, keep the conversation going. All helpful information. I love that we're able to share tips and advice. It could really, help someone out who may not be able to, have the insight to ask the question or to extract the information out from those of us who are well versed in all it takes to build and upgrade and service your PC. But the information could prove valuable to a fellow listener or a fellow watcher. Well, speaking of fellow listener, I tell you what. Uh, Also, keep looking out, because we have so much cool information coming up, and just I can't talk too much about it. Okay, I guess Maple, is that question targeted for Clevon? It says you have a G9. I believe that's the Auroras model. I could be wrong. I believe that's the Auroras model of laptops, but I could be wrong. But I think that question is targeted to Clevon. So Clevon, do let us know what brand laptop you're using. But we're talking about that again, the 7Ps of building a gaming PC or being a PC enthusiast. Buying a pre-built DIY build, hiring somebody to do it yourself, like a system integrator. Prior proper planning prevents a poor performing PC. Wherever you at, if you can't be loud, whisper it. But if you can, say it with me, y'all. Come on, I know we on a delay, but say it with me. Proper prior planning prevents a poor performing PC. And again, this could save you time and money, so that you could align yourself with the value prop here, or the value message here in this community. Save time and money to spend it more on and with the PC. Okay? Not wasting your time making any unnecessary upgrades, or buying the wrong solution to help you fix a problem with your PC. But as you educate yourself, research your hardware based on your needs and your expectations. Sifting through the noise and ignoring bad PC advice will become clearer, and you will have become your own best guide. Okay? You will have become your own best guide. As you sift through the noise, you will be able to discern bad PC advice and good PC advice. It's like a sifter, right? You know, if you're not, you take all the dirt and sift it through, and you try to find all the gems that's hidden in between. Do the same thing. As you do that, as you do that, you will become your own best guide. You will find yourself right here sharing all of your past victories, your past wins and losses with the community. Okay? You will become your own best guide. As I see Cliff, that's right, said proper proper perspiration prevents personal petting. That too. Hydrate yourselves, fam. Hydrate yourselves. All right. All right, so let me switch back here. Sorry. Well, now I think it's slowly time to end the ride. I just want to say, if you just now join us, make sure that, again, if you're hitting that like button for me on your way in, and if you're a new subscriber here, if YouTube served this video up to you, and you're not yet subscribed, excuse me, you're not yet subscribed, and you're just now joining us, go back and watch this from the beginning. And I want to earn your subscription. If you're already subscribed here to the channel, I know we had a few new members join, and we had a few, I believe it's Patrick O'Neill, somebody else just, subscribed to the channel here today. I want to earn your subscription. So if you're just now joining us, and if you haven't yet, definitely like the video, scroll it back and watch it from the beginning before you decide if you want to subscribe. And I hope I would have earned your subscription. You will continue to find this content helpful and informative to help educate you along your PC journey. It never stops. Raise your hand if it's ever stopped. Raise your hand if you ever stopped glorifying over cases you can't afford or you don't need to buy. Glorifying over high capacity RAM modules or high capacity RAM configurations. High-end graphics cards, high core count CPUs, high-end motherboards. It never stops. This journey as a PC enthusiast, as a PC user, especially a PC gamer, doesn't stop. It doesn't exclude our laptop friends and fam as well. Okay? Laptop or desktop. They both got top in it. A horrible analogy, but it's true. They both have top in it. Laptop, desktop. Okay? One's just a hyper mobilized version of the other. Okay? You get stationary desktop, mobile laptop. But we got a lot to discuss and a lot to go over in the upcoming weeks. So again, do be sure that you are following the content. Keep a lookout for, again, channel memberships coming at the end of the month, on top of other things. And with that out the way, I think the ride slowly is coming to an end. Let me get my final shout outs and pause while I'm shouting you out. If you're still here, let me know. Let me know, especially if you're back there lurking. If you're lurking and you're here, and especially if I know you from other socials, if you're a fellow creator, you lurking, please, at least, you can let me know you're here now. Maybe you wanted to lurk towards the end, but if you let me know you're lurking now. But shout out to WASD Moves, Cliff for popping in, Maple for popping in, adding value to the conversation, Clevon for adding value to the conversation, sharing in their pain points and ways we can help them. And again, Clevon, make sure you reach out to me over on Instagram and Twitter or Twitter. Instagram has gotten more photo-centric and video-centric here, but for more text and to keep the conversation text, make sure you follow me over there. But yeah, Clevon, would love to help you out. Again, Cliff, oh man, with the supers, I'm seeing all the Cliff supers. Again, thanks, Cliff, for the supers. Han Slow-Mo. Han, you still with us, fam? Han, when you pop in, it's always good to see you, Han. It's always good to see you, Han. Han, let me know if you still here with us, Han. It's good to see Han Slow-Mo, of course. Let me go up. Let me see. Teresa, it was great seeing you as well, Teresa. Teresa came in, shared their experiences with buying used graphics cards and the issues that they have run into with graphics cards not lasting as long and having to buy multiple options just to keep the ball rolling and to keep their machine up and running and rendering those sweet pixels. Cloud Zaze came in and gave some great feedback. Told me I need to improve my thumbnails, and again, Game recognized game, fully appreciated. Cloud also dropped a dollar super chat, which again, all super chats super appreciated and super welcome. So Cloud, I'm not sure if you're still watching Cloud, but if you're still with us, do let me know. Again, let me know if anybody I shot you out. Do let me know you still watching. But Cloud, thank you again for the super chat, and thank you again for the feedback. Yeah, I'm gonna work on my thumbnails. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Thumbnails is something I'm always insecure about. I'm always thinking a thumbnail is never enough, and most content creators will tell you that we normally design like 2 or 3 thumbnails, and that's true. That's true. Even to this day, I find myself not satisfied with some thumbnails I publish, but the video has to get out, and perfection is the enemy of done, or perfection is the enemy of good, however you want to take the quote. But thumbnails is an ongoing struggle, and I will definitely continue to make them more clickable, because that's what nothing a view starts with the attraction of the thumbnail. So solid advice, and again, I appreciate the feedback. Let me see. Skitty Live. Scott was also here. Kingman was also here. I think Kingman was also a new viewer that joined the community, that joined the Lab Fam escapade. Sparta Rules 1993 was also present and active. It was good to see you as well. And Brother Anthony, are you still lurking? Let me know. Your Highness, always good to see you. Your Highness always pops in first when I'm looking in the back end of the live, and I'm like, Your Highness, be like, bam, I'm here. Love it, Your Highness, love it. Patrick O'Neill, it's good to see you too, Pat. And again, Pat, when you're ready to start your journey, hit me up so I can help you get started. We can find out what your budget is, what your needs are, what games you want to play, what resolution you want to play at, all of that good jazz. Tricion, of course. Tricion came in. Tricion did say, I like cyberpower PCs, but all good. We respect the opinions of everybody in this community. But it was always good to see Tricion. I love Tricion adding alternative commentary to the conversation. Mad Meech gave the first super chat, which I'm not sure. Meech, if you still with me, let me know if you still here. Let me know if you're still here, bro. You came with the the lift, the weight bar, the dumbbell. Awesome stuff. That's right. But the flexing on it. Let me see if I can get a flex. I can't. All right, there you go. Flexing the dumbbell, right? But awesome stuff. Patrick, it was good seeing you. The Outlaw of the South. It was good to see you too, Outlaw. Outlaw, you still with us? Because I swear this was your first time here on the show. TMZ, the Mr. Zombify, let me know if you still lurking and watching as well. If you still here, fam, it was good to see you too. TMZ, long time showrunner on the show. And of course, last but not least, we saved the last for the best, or the best for last. And that's, of course, our moderator, my wife, my partner, Mrs. Mod. Shout out to Mrs. Mod, our moderator, for keeping the conversation lively and active over in the chat, sharing those sweet and helpful links with the community. Appreciate our mod squad, our one lady mod squad, but super important role there, keeping the conversation going and making sure, because trolls happen here. The bigger you become, the larger you become. That's just the nature of the beast. But I welcome the trolls. I ain't gonna feed you much. You welcome to come in and sit and listen. You ain't gonna get fed, but you're able to come in and sit and listen, right? But you're not gonna get fed. It is what it is. But I love the trolls too. Clevon says super chats, super stickers not available in my region. Ah, yeah, that's right. That's a good disclosure to put. It's not available for everybody. All good though, Clevon. Again, no requirements, but should you feel the need to want to support the channel, support me financially as a creator, check out the Cash App, and I need to drop the PayPal link, and that's something I'll do in another shows. I'm not sure if it's like a significant, like a special link, or is it just like my email? But that's inside the lab show at gmail.com. That is my PayPal link. You can check that out here, as I just was waiting to show. I just wanted to make sure, but yeah, either way, it's not a requirement, but again, should you want to, you can check that out. Support me over on PayPal at inside the lab show at gmail.com, or over on the Cash App. I'm not sure if Cash App is available over there in Trinidad. I don't want to pardon my ignorance, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here or anywhere. But I'm not sure if it's available over in Trinidad. But again, no biggie. But should you feel the need to want to support, and that's anybody would want to support me as a creator, check that out. And I'll share my PayPal link, 'cause I see I gotta create one. It'll be in the chats, and I'll make sure to drop it in all future live streams. So do keep a lookout for those, as more will be on the way. We've already shared the Cash App. I should have pinned it to the top though. It's all good. That's all good. Yeah, I gotta create a PayPal link. Let me see if I can. No, not that. Try to see if we can do one now. Let me see. Inside the lab show. All right. So if anybody out there, again, if super chats aren't available in your area, there you go. PayPal me / inside the lab. See if I can get the link. Here we go. There you go. It's right there. If you want to support me over there on PayPal and you can't send a super chat or a Cash App, there you go. All right, but fam, that's it. We're going to go ahead and slow the ride down and end it there. Again, if you're on the replay, let me know you made it this far. Shout out to our replay viewers. The live stream wasn't supposed to go this long, but we did have to make up for last week, not missing the show. And we will have more updates on season 2 of the weekly live show. So with that said, I do hope to catch you all in the next one. If you're new and you've never seen the post credits reel, hang out for a little while, as I kind of do say. I'm not on the camera anymore, but I will talk to you in between. But if you haven't seen the oh man, bad habit. It's good to see you, Bad Habit. Man, Bad Habit, you came out the very second, right when we were slowing the ride down, Bad Habit. But it's good to see you. We did shot you out earlier. Cliff said it looks like it's the Bad Habit. It's all good, Bad Habit. Bad Habit says, I got here mad late. No, it's all good, Bad Habit. Watching the replays, support, the watch time and the view still very much helps. We had a very fun and fluid conversation, Bad Habit. Even had your name come up a few times. So if you got the time, Bad Habit, as the show wraps up, just give it a replay. No, it's all good. No. You guys and gals are never late. You're never late. So much as you show up, you're always on time. So much as you show up, you're always on time. You guys and gals are never late to the show. So long as you show up, you are always on time. Especially if I have the moment, even if it's a couple seconds, to just check in. Because again, Bad Habit, we had to reschedule. We had to flex the live show a week out. You guys, gals know I do not like doing that. But we had to flex the live show a week out, and I miss you guys and gals. I really do. Like I'm super. Oh man, I'm saying a lot, but I'm super introverted. But being able to do this here, I love it. I don't feel introverted when I'm having the opportunity of rapping with the community. So yeah, Bad Habit. And I also talked a great deal about super chats. So you're going to hear that, or not super chats. Super chats are great, not super chats, but channel memberships. Channel memberships are coming the end of the month. So keep a lookout for that, Bad Habit. Not sure if you're in the Discord or if you're on the email list, but email subscribers are going to get the join link first. And then we will do a dedicated video and companion live stream to break down the perks and to break down the mission with channel memberships and how it could benefit me directly as a creator. But Bad Habits is out. Definitely will watch the replay. Yeah, definitely appreciate that. The videos are monetized now, so there may be commercial breaks in between. But again, your viewership really supports the message here and supports the mission, me as a creator. But Bad Habit, we're glad that we were able to see you. I'm glad that we caught a lot. And I said this early in live stream. I know I said the ride is like, the metal was grinding as it's slowly coming to an end or slowly coming to a stop. But earlier in the live show, I did say Bad Habit, right? And Cliff, WASD Moves, and Maple, and Your Highness. Some of you guys can testify. I did say that we had all of our normal regular show, our regular viewers in attendance, and that made me super, super ecstatic and super hyped for that. And I said, all we're missing was Bad Habit. I said, Bad Habit's not here. Bad Habit's normally here, but it's all good. I will catch Bad Habit in the next one. We were able to catch Bad Habit, y'all. We were also able to catch Han Slow Mo, Tricion, Your Highness, Sparta Rules, Cliff, a lot of the show regulars, man. This community is growing, and I super appreciate y'all riding with me especially here the year we're at a year bad habit of the live experience. I know you've been one of the OGs to the live show, and the live show first went up last August 19th of last year, y'all, during the quarantine, and when things were real sticky for a lot of us all over the globe, man, a lot of us all over the globe, which we do got a lot of global friends and fam here. But the live show kicked off in August 2020 when I decided to go live and take the message and mission to the next level. Channel membership is going to take it to another level, right? Look, going live took it to the next level. Channel memberships is going to take it to another level. The Inside the Lab Patreon Dark is going to take it somewhere new and different, fam. Holy cow. Holy cow. I can't wait till we talk about the Patreon, the Inside the Lab Patreon Dark. Yeah, the Patreon, Inside the Lab Patreon Dark things are going to get real interested. Again, that's if you can decide to support me here on YouTube or support the mission and message over on Patreon. Channel memberships is a core part of my full-time strategy in terms of maintaining a livable income, if you will, as a creator, and just going super full-time. But yeah, bad habit. Good to see you. I appreciate you. Yeah, definitely check out the live stream. Tap in at about 15-20 minutes in, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions or comments along the way. And that's anybody else who's made it to the live, who's watching the replay, and you made it this far. But all right, friends and fam, that's been all for this one. Again, you can check out the PayPal to support the show, or check out the Cash App to support the show as well. All funds, small amounts add up. Cliff did the math for us. I said I would gladly take, what was it, 100,000 nickels we said? I would gladly take 100,000 nickels. Cliff did the math. Cliff said 100,000 nickels equals about $5 grand. If it was 100,000, pretty sure it was 100,000 nickels. I would gladly take 100,000 nickels. It's $5 grand. They'd all, even if that's something that just built up and added up over time. 100,000 nickels, I'll take it. Any amount, small, whatever, adds up and helps in a big way. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and go, friends and fam. I do hope to catch you on the next one. So until then, be easy. Same to you, bad habit. Good night to you as well. Good night to you, fam. And Cliff, thanks for the show and all the work on the channel. Yeah, fam. And you know what? Thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up, everybody, and supporting the show and the channel. Yes, the mission and the message will continue to rock on. We will continue to power on. Be easy. Absolutely. Good night to you, Cliff, and good night to you as well, Teresa. You are certainly welcome. Thank you again, you guys and gals, for showing up and supporting the show. Good night, man. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. It's late, but enjoy the rest of your Saturday, y'all. Be easy.